Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь, вашей жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 545 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again after another very successful Sunday fundraiser.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. But we did have an incredible fundraiser that managed to raise $8.6 thousand for Doctors Without Borders. It was an incredible fundraiser, absolutely amazing, and it's going to help to save the lives of folks in Ukraine. And I got to thank everyone so much once again for always keeping their hearts and minds out and always paying attention to the folks in Ukraine and making sure to save as many lives as we can. Of course, thank you all to everyone who supported the fundraiser and everyone who promoted the fundraiser, and of course, long live the Lee Spring Army. But moving on into the breaking news today, there is a lot of it. It was really hard to even pick a title tonight because there were drone attacks in Russia, the purge is still going strong, Surovikin is getting bullied, the front lines in the south are collapsing for the Russians, the Ukrainians are starting to make a little bit more ground than normal, there's stuff going on in Kherson, there's stuff going on in the northeast, there is stuff going on literally everywhere. And I don't even know where to really begin. So we're going to begin with the title for tonight's stream, which is the advances that the Ukrainians have been making in the Zaporizhzhia front. The Ukrainians have been making a decent amount of progress over the past 48 hours in this part of the front line in particular, and it does appear that the frontline units of the Russian army are beginning to wear down considerably at this point, and their defensive effectiveness due to attrition is greatly decreased. This is also something that's been corroborated by the Russian mill bloggers, and then the Institute for the Study of War went and compiled a lot of what the mill bloggers had been saying and came up to a final analysis. The Russians are running short of just about everything. Morale, they're infighting, they have equipment shortages, and not only that, there are also manpower shortages as well. Once again, tying into that idea that the Russians might be calling up a partial or full mobilization here within the next month or two if things continue to deteriorate for the Russian forces. The article from the Institute of the Study of War, of course, goes into great detail about what the Russian mill bloggers have been saying, but what it is all boiling down to is not only are these units completely devoid of any kind of strategic reserve, which could help them to fare the Ukrainian offensive a little bit better, they don't have any equipment that is coming in that is new. If there is any equipment that is coming in, it's incredibly old. There's a lot of infighting going on in between Russian units as well. A lot of Russian units don't get along with each other well at all, surprisingly. The VDV hates the normal army hates the VDV, the Chechen Kadyrovites love everyone a little too much whenever they're around them, if you know what I mean. Everyone isn't really having a good time with each other. And on top of that, because of that, and because of the lack of equipment, and not only the lack of equipment, the lack of actual hard currency to pay out to the soldiers in the Russian army, we're seeing that they're not that into the war. And it's really starting to show in their combat performance, especially in areas around Robotyne, where we got a million clips of their poor combat performance, and also near the village chain at Staromanivka, which most of the big things in the village chain happened yesterday in video footage and picture evidence. But beyond that, let's move on. Speaking of the poor state of the Russian army, let's move on into the area of Robotyne and let's see what Deep State UA has as their update for the past 48 hours. So let me move on from Staromayorsk, and we're going to be moving on towards Robotyne. And we can see that over the past 48 hours, the Deep State UA map has shown that they are making advances. But I would also like for y'all to know this as well. Deep State UA, from what we can tell at this point, is not exactly accurate with its frontline map. Yes, the Ukrainians do control this area, but they have moved well beyond this, and many other maps outside of Deep State UA are starting to show that Ukrainian front lines have moved well beyond the clearly controlled area that Deep State UA is showing. Right now, some front lines show that the Ukrainian front lines have made it about here, where the mouse cursor is moving, and all the way down to here. We have on our map what we are assuming the broad shape of the front line is at this moment, and from what we understand, the Ukrainians have complete control of Robotyne. We also got a clip that further corroborated that today, as the Ukrainians have been able to secure the town well enough that they are now able to evacuate Ukrainian citizens under relative safety. One thing I would like for y'all to know is several things before we even watch this video. One, the sound of gunfire is somewhat distant in most clips. Very rarely does it sound like it's close up. And it's also very intermittent and slow, also indicating that the battle has moved on outside of Robotyne and is a well ways away from there at this point. Another thing to note is that the Ukrainian army is evacuating citizens in this clip, and this actually happened right now today. This video clip came out just a few hours after this happened. This is something important to remember because the Ukrainians, whenever there is shelling occurring in a town and of course the citizens are still there, they actually order them to shelter in place and do not attempt evacuations, and they also don't load them into APCs, which would be clear targets for the Russian army in the middle of an ongoing battle for the town. So one thing we can tell from this upcoming video clip is that it is very clear that the Ukrainians aren't just halfway controlling Robotyne, they have secured the town completely while I stutter my way through secured, and they are well south. I have a stammer at the king's speech. But anyways, they are well south of the town at this point, most likely fighting over Prokopivka at this point. So we are assuming that they have taken complete control of the town. And we'll once again show the clip, and I'll also be explaining that again as we watch the clip. So this was actually taken from the 47th Brigade. We can see the Bradley moving in, and notice how the Bradley is moving into the town, not at any kind of a slower speed. You're not going to see a Bradley full-sended into what may be Russian positions because it get encircled and hit by an AT weapon, and then it's lights out for the Bradley. So the speed at which the Bradley is entering the town and the confidence that it's entering with shows that there are no Russians in Robotyne at this point. You can also see the entirety of the village on this drone video. Over here at this road on the very top of the screen, that is the very end of Robotyne, and we can see the Bradley at the very beginning of it. So clearly there are no Russians left inside of this village. We can see that Bradley passing on film. And we can now see them, after getting the citizens out of the town, we now see that they've got them to an exfiltration point where they'll be transported further on. And we can see them calling their relatives.
Доця, нас вивезли, доця. Я знаю, мам, я знаю. Не плач. Ми вже все, ми вже дома.
Та думаю, що да, в порядку. Думаю, що скоро побачимось.
Привіт. Привіт. Сонечко моє. Як ми скучили за вами.
Ми теж за вами скучили, скоро ж побачимося.
Психологічно було дуже важко. Поки не стало води і поки не стало світла,
And we now see them taking interviews from the citizenry about their stories and experiences of the village and how they were evacuated.
So do we know how long they were withstanding the fighting before they were evacuated?
The entire war.
Dang, so they've been there that whole time during that crap?
Yeah, they have been there for about a year and a half at this point, because back when Robotyne was taken by the Russian army, that was actually within March of 2022. And so these citizens have actually been inside of that village since that point and have never left, even when it became a battlefield.
Now it's understandable why they're so happy because they've been enduring basically hell for that long.
Yeah, and they really have been. And what's surprising is that the Russians, of course, keep in mind, the Russians are always talking about they care about the people in Ukraine, and that's their official stance. Notice how they didn't evacuate any of them. All of the people that left Robotyne left on their own at the very beginning of the war. These people who were there, they were never evacuated by the Russians. And Robotyne has been well behind Russian lines for a good while. The front lines at the start of this counteroffensive were just south of Arikiv. That was about 7 miles away. The Russians had an ability to evacuate these people, yet they never did. And so they had to bear the front of a Russian offensive moving into the area and taking Robotyne in March of 2022, and then they had to deal with the withering counteroffensive that has been happening this year and their gradual march into the village to then be evacuated. And that's a very big thing to note, but also, once again, beyond the overall excitement of the citizens, which is amazing to see and great to see the Ukrainians actually care about their people enough to evacuate them, unlike the Russians, one thing that's important to note is that video and how the Ukrainians are operating inside of that village clearly shows that the battle is no longer in Robotyne. It has clearly moved beyond that area, and the situation is secure enough in the village that they are now actually evacuating Ukrainian citizens instead of telling them to shelter in place, which is the normal call. Moving on from that, we're going to be moving into some frontline clips from today, which there are a million of, and a good amount of prisoners were also taken on film today as well. But starting up on the eastern side of the bulge in this front line, we saw that a Ukrainian mortar unfortunately got stuck in some kind of a ditch. It was a Mortar 1A3, one of the new ones provided by the Germans, and apparently from what we were told, this was an 82nd Brigade mortar. We can see that it was trying to drive over a Russian infantry trench, and it ended up sliding into it and getting stuck. And we can see this guy's got a lot more balls than I do, because I wouldn't walk under APC that is just kind of teetering on the edge of the trench. But still, you can see that the thing's stuck. It'll require a recovery vehicle to get out of this. A little unfortunate, but at least it's still operational, and once they pull it out of the trench, it'll be able to go back on its way. But with that, that's the end of that little clip there. And you can see that the Ukrainians, of course, run into difficulties here and there, but nothing too severe. Moving on into the front lines in the south, where we see most of the Ukrainian advances, we can see a clip that appears to have come from the Verbove area, where the Ukrainians have gotten onto the Surovikin line, the first line of defenses there, and they've begun to hit Russian forces around that general area with the Bradley. We can hear the epic music playing, and we can see a soldier lying there, and we can also see, oh, wait a minute. These are Ruski soldiers. You see the little white armband right there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, bled. Well, they're laying in the middle of the open road. Geniuses, of course, of war. Laying in the open road, laying down fire, down the street. And now we're just waiting for the old Bradley to come rolling up. Because things are going to go south once the Bradley arrives. And we can see this guy down here.
What's he doing?
He's trying to learn American Sign Language. It's just a side hobby of his.
Dumb Russians get right in the middle of the road.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
there's Bradley. Hold up, wait a minute. I think I may have misidentified him. I think those may have actually been Ukrainians, perhaps, because the Bradley just rolled right by him without even caring. And now it's moving up through a smoke screen into the village. And I gotta say this. I have to say this real quick. Because while I was being critical, I still have to be critical. I don't feel like it's a smart idea to lay on the road. In a while, you'll have a great, clear vision down the road. That's not that smart because, like you have a clear vision down the road, everyone in the grasses near the street and on the street get to see you as well, so you kind of become a bit of a target. But when you see
those were actually Ukrainians? They
Yes.
didn't get run over, did they?
No, they didn't. They did get run over, but I still feel like it's not a smart idea to lay down fire in the middle of the street. But we see the Bradley ripping up the houses down here in these little village homes, and now reversing back down the street and then stopping. That's weird because that looks like a white armband. Like I'm not colorblind or anything, but that is pretty white looking and right where the armband would be.
This video is kind of confusing. I really can't lie. Oh my God, it's coming right back at them.
Oh my lord, man. I would have crapped my pants if I was that guy on the street right there. Look at this. Dude, that thing passed by him like maybe 2 feet away. Dude, I would have been like, that's it. I'm done.
I don't know if they even see him because they're so close to him. It's like, surely they know they're about to smush a guy.
I don't even know. And now they've turned around and they're going back up. The Bradley's laying down fire again with the Bushmaster. And we see them continuing to fire, and a lot of people are saying that it may be wound dressing. But at the same time, I feel like they would have removed the armband, put the dressing under it, and then put the armband back on. Because right now with that armband where it is, and someone, I don't know who said this and why, someone said it's clearly yellow, and you would have to be an idiot to say it's anything but yellow. Now, I'm just saying, I did go through kindergarten, so I have a little bit of knowledge in color theory. But that looks white to me, and it's right where an armband would be. So, that's a little...
Are you yellow?
Are you yellow, boy?
But, no, he's not yellow.
He's not
That looks
yellow.
white to me.
That looks white to me. So, maybe it's a bandage. That's a bad place to put a bandage, especially on the front. But anyways, that's the end of that clip right there, and great to see a Bradley laying down fire around the Verbove area in support of Ukrainian forces. Moving on from that, we also saw that the Ukrainians were able to take a Russian prisoner. Oh, you see him right here. Now, this guy looks to be about 50-ish, 60-ish, somewhere in that range. By and large, the general thing you need to get from this is that this guy is way too old to be in the enlisted ranks as just pretty much a private or an infantryman, a rifleman. And it's also showing, because of that the Russians are running into manpower issues. They don't have enough younger, able-bodied men that would usually fill this role in the infantry, and so they're having to conscript older guys who are in their 50s and 60s to carry on this fight.
Сколько детей?
We can see the Ukrainians interrogating Aristotle right here.
That's what happens when Aristotle falls on hard times. He goes from a philosopher to a war criminal.
Man, he sat there and he went, I was eating figs one day under an olive tree, and now I'm in the middle of the Third World War, boy. It's like, what? How did you get here? Dude, what the Ukrainians are asking are, how old are you? He's saying 25. The front line really gets to you, bled. It really stresses you out. Oh man, this guy be smoking up the cig. Man, he be chuffing.
Is that a Russian?
Yes.
They're using that like a police tactic, giving them a cigarette to make them feel comfortable.
Cigarette? Yeah, sure. Oh,
Would you
boy.
like some Maccas too?
Oh boy, I love cancer. Sure, give it to me. But anyways, that's the clip right there. But we can see the Ukrainians took 2 prisoners on film in their advance in Robotyne today. A good sign of things to come, which is the Russian army's eventual wearing down in the area. There's going to be a breakthrough here. If a breakthrough happened anywhere at this point, it's going to be either in this area around Robotyne, or it's going to be over at the village chain near Starolinivka. One of the 2 places. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also saw another clip of another Russian soldier that was captured in this area today. Here he is laying on the floor. And he goes, oh, hello. The Ukrainian's like, oh, hey. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And we can see this guy right here. He's pretty fine with the war being over for him, man. He's just laying there, chilling. Ukrainian comes up, he's like, look, it's Russian. And he's like some kind of interactive video game element. He just goes, oh, hello there. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And another Russian soldier captured. Of course, we don't get to see all of the Russian soldiers that have surrendered on film. We don't get to see everything going on the front lines. So the fact that they were able to film around 3 to 4 prisoners in this area today shows that at least probably a squad-sized element across the entire area of Robotyne has ended up surrendering today, or even more, although we can't really go on anything beyond what we can see on video. Moving on from that and into one of our last clips, we also got a general overview of what the 47th has been doing today in the Robotyne area and why they've begun to evacuate citizens. And of course, this is a very short United 24 clip, but here it is.
The 47th Brigade is now in one of the toughest frontline areas, the south of Ukraine. Despite facing artillery, aircraft, and well-fortified positions, the Ukrainians push forward. They're equipped with Paladin howitzers, Panthera T6, and Max Pro armored vehicles.
Wait, did they put LED lights in this thing?
Yeah, it looks like it, man. That's actually pretty sick. I can't lie.
Dude, man. Dude, you're going to hear... As they're rolling up, they're going to start playing Patamalia Dream or something.
T6 and Max Pro armored vehicles, and the famous Bradleys.
Yeah.
A year ago, this was just a concept. A startup battalion with a focus on modern weaponry, strong values, and motivation. In just 1 year, it progressed from a battalion to a regiment, and ultimately to a brigade. Led by 20-year-old Alexander Sak, the youngest brigade...
28-year-old. It was 28-year-old. It was not 20-year-old. If he was 20, that would be incredible. He's 28, though. He's still very young.
Commander in Ukraine's history, the soldiers have exceptional motivation.
But there was just a
another United 24 banger video, I'm telling you.
Man, they just put out bop after bop after bop. They are a bop machine. They call them Bop It because they just come out with never-ending bops. But anyways, absolutely incredible film. Once again, giving a little bit of a summary of what the 47th Brigade is and what they're doing in the area. And they've been doing an incredible job, of course, securing the town of Robotyne, which is one of the most important villages along the road to Tokmak. The only ones that you could say have equal value to Robotyne, or even somewhat similar or runner-ups, would be Prokopivka, which is a real tongue twister. It's like Peter picked a pipe of pickled peppers or something like that. And then beyond that, there's really nothing left. Ilchenkove is literally a one-street town. It's that town that your army recruiter told you about before you joined the army, where he said he came from a one-stoplight town. This is the one right here. And then the next one down in the chain, Surovikin, is also the same thing. You won't be seeing the world from these towns, but you will be on the highway to Tokmak, and you will be seeing it in the distance the entire time you're fighting down that highway. So with the Ukrainians taking Robotyne, the only sizable Russian position that could be taken in this area is at Prokopivka, and then beyond that, the road will largely be open to Tokmak. It will be field-to-field fighting and tree-line fighting beyond that point, and usually that fighting goes a lot quicker than your village fighting or your city fighting, because, of course, you're not having to clear each street, and you're not having to try and go up against a well-entrenched enemy. You can only get so entrenched in the tree lines before it becomes completely pointless. Also, by the way, I don't know if Google Maps shows this, and it appears that they don't, which is kind of unfortunate. But the Surovikin line actually goes through this area. It goes right in front of Rbove, and then takes a sharp southerly turn, goes straight south, and then levels back out and heads west again, and it goes in between Ilchenkove and Surovikin. So that means that while the Ukrainians will take Prokopivka, and it is open field fighting beyond that point, they still will have to deal with the Surovikin line, and that will pose a little bit of an issue. But not really that much of an issue, because if the Russian forces are pushed back that far in this part of the front, they will be attrited so heavily by that point, and there will be no strategic reserve to replace them, that they probably wouldn't pose an effective defense even in heavily entrenched positions like the Surovikin line. Moving on from that area of the southern front, though, and the amazing actions that the Ukrainians have been taking down there, we also got to see that the folks over in the village chain were doing their damnedest today to inflict heavy damage on the Russian forces, hitting a Russian command post and taking out 50 Russian soldiers in a single instant. This was, of course, done with the HIMARS. And we could see the little skulls bouncing.
That's some lovely chill bop music.
Man.
Утро для...
Man, they're just chilling.
All right. But what's that stuff in the bottom down there? Goodness. Halloween time.
Dude, I guess you could say that the Russians are absolutely boned about this attack. But anyways, you see the HIMARS slamming into the command post and taking them out. And that thing's getting pretty smoky. The skulls are so distracting, though. It's like one of those little children stimulant videos, you know, where they have too much going on and it overloads the kids. I feel like that's what's happening in the bottom right corner of the screen. But anyways, we can see the
I was just from like Afghanistan or something, like you know, like that compound or something in the Middle East.
Like Soink Scoob. I think we're in the wrong continent. Ruh-roh, Raggy, J-Jam the Wadi.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Like, but Scoob. We don't know who's in there. Like Soinks, Raggy. Screw the rules. So anyways, but we can
Forget the rules of engagement.
Yeah, what rules of engagement? But we can see the command post has been wiped off the face of the earth, and another 50 Russians have bit the dust, which is great. And so with that, we're going to be moving on from that little clip. And wonderful to know that the Ukrainians are using the HIMARS as it was supposed to be used in attacking strategic sites behind the lines to further interdict Russian effectiveness near to the front, affecting their supply lines, their communications, their command structure, and overall their actual effectiveness. Moving on into the area of Zaitova Bzhanya, we've seen some of the first Ukrainian action directed at that village as they've been slowly maneuvering their way around it. We're actually going to be moving over to that part of the front, and I, of course, have to give the disclaimer now because we're starting to somewhat clearly see this. Deep State UA is playing it quite cautiously, and so their front lines are not perfectly representative of the situation anymore, but I get why they're doing that. But over the past 24 hours, they have shown that this area has clearly been claimed by the Ukrainians, but they have not shown any frontline advances around Zaitova Bzhanya. One thing we can see, however, is that the Russians have completely retreated from Urozhaine and are now setting up defensive positions inside of the village and the Mokryali River. It appears that they will most likely, in the event of a Ukrainian push, give up the highway heading to Staromanivka first, which will give the Ukrainians most likely the upper hand in that battle, so they're kind of getting their priorities wrong. That highway is actually on an elevated position around 30 to 50 feet over the town of Zaitova Bzhanya, and so going off of that, the Ukrainians will be able to fire down into every single part of the village. The Russians wouldn't be able to do anything at that point, and then their only thing that they could do from that defensive position is try and protect the fields over to their west, but if you're being fired on from the east and you can't even really poke your head out of cover to fire at anything, what's the point of trying to protect the fields from the west? At this point, they're screwed. It would have been smarter for them to hold on to the highway area and then have a smaller force in Zaitova Bzhanya, but it appears that they're going about everything ass backwards as the Russians normally do. Anyways, moving on into the clip, we got to see that Russian forces were slammed by some Ukrainian artillery inside the village, and it appears that the Ukrainians are already beginning to suppress Russian forces, so that way Ukrainian maneuver units can begin to move down the highway. When you see our Russian right here, he just popped out, he said, "Good morning, Ukraine. Today is going to be another wonderful day." Is that a drone? Oh, blad. And then he's going to go back and hide. He's like, "We are in trouble. We are in some very deep crap, blad."
Oh, just stumbles back inside. Hey, guys, I think we're in trouble.
He's like,
I think we're screwed.
He's like, "Fellas, do you have life insurance?" And they're like, "Why?" "Well, there's a drone outside." And we can see the auxiliary light was just turned on. And y'all know that's like the freaking Grim Reaper of the war right there. If the auxiliary light gets turned on, folks are about to go places that they don't want to be. So we can see them looking at the shanty shack that's been made by the Russians down there. And we can see the bomblet hit right there on the mark, right where they were. And we can now see the little... Oh, wait a minute. We see some movement. Oh, someone's throwing out corn on the cob. And, chicken
I don't know
tenders?
what that was.
I don't know what that was, dude. It's something long and black and white. I don't know what that is, but it looks like corn on the cob to me. We're going to call it a corn on the cob. So beyond the corn on the cob getting thrown out of the outpost, that's all that happened after the bomblet hit. So I don't know what happened to them in there. Maybe they're in a bad spot because, you know, when the corn on the cob is thrown out the door, things are hitting the floor. But we're going to be moving on from that little bit of a video inside of a Bzhanya and moving on towards Urozhaine, where we saw that another Russian soldier had been captured in this area. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention, while they're running out of able-bodied Russians, the few able-bodied guys that go there, when they get captured pretty quickly. This guy is only 19. Not, that's actually normal fighting age for the most part. The average age of a soldier in Vietnam was 19. But moving on from that, he is a pretty young guy compared to what we've usually been seeing in the war. We've been seeing people who are in their 50s and 60s in the enlisted ranks, and now we're finally seeing a guy who's 19. And as soon as he gets captured, he's like, guys, I'm 19. Please have mercy. And the Ukrainians actually do. They say, I understand, everything's fine. Nobody will do anything to you. And then the video ends. But interestingly enough, they're actually treating this guy with a good amount of care. Usually the Ukrainians are pissed off enough that they'll knock a Russian around a little bit, not excessively, but, pop him in the head maybe or something like that. They actually didn't treat that guy that bad in the 5-second clip. And I'm assuming that just carried on after the clip. But with that, that's the end of that video right there. And great to see that Ukrainian soldiers are having a bit of mercy on some Russians, and also, once again, showing the Russian manpower issue, where they don't have enough guys to really fill up the ranks normally, like that are in their 20s or their 30s. They're either just right out of high school, or they're in their 50s and 60s and they're pensioners. And it's a pretty sad state for the Russian army, but what can you expect from a dictatorship that treats their people like trash, and then they all run to other countries? I'll tell you what you get. You get what you freaking deserve. Moving on from that and over into the Volodar area in Mikilsky, we also saw the 68th Jaeger Brigade, which has been holding the area of Volodar very strongly since the beginning of this year in December. They were dropping some drone grenades onto the open-air anti-tank mine pits. And we all know how that goes. It's just a wonderful explosion to watch. Wait a minute, did you see that?
Oh, they got some hype music. What was that?
Is that a honey badger?
Nah, it's too fluffy to be a honey badger. That's like some kind of... It looks like it might have some badger in its blood, though. Like a bloodline along the lines, maybe a honey badger mixed with a bear, maybe a little dog, and a little bit of savagery.
And maybe a medieval king, because this thing's got freaking clubfoot. Look at that, man. Like that thing's got some genetic issues going on. But anyways...
He's got that sovereign in his bloodline.
Well, he's dropping the drone. Oh my god.
Oh man.
Dude,
nuclear.
Those never get old, man. Dude, Oppenheimer has nothing on this.
When the drone has to back up, it's a nice size explosion.
Oh yeah, and look how high the mushroom clouds already reached. Oh my lord. That literally was a small nuclear bomb that almost went off right there. Look at the crater.
Jeez.
Man, it just literally seared the leaves off of every tree around it. That place is gone. They're going to have to call in like their version of the EPA in Ukraine to clean this place up, because I bet you it will smell like sulfur for years now. And that MTLB is gone. I mean, like, that thing is done for right there. Look at it. That looks like it's just a sad charred up wreck after the mines went off. I wonder if there were even any Russians in the area when that happened, because that was that seemed like it may have been the middle of a little operation to create the pit. And then in the creation of the pit disappeared. But with that, that's the end of that clip. Great to see the 68th Brigade was able to find that pit. It was very hard to see, so whoever found it had a really good eye. And not only that, they were able to inflict some pretty heavy damage onto that pit, almost right on the spot. So good job on them. And of course, we can all see that the Southern Front is going somewhat well for the Ukrainians right now. Hopefully they will be able to continue the momentum that we're seeing them having in the area of Robotyne and the village chain, and we eventually will see a breakthrough. Of course, I'm not going to crystal ball. I'm not going to be the Russians to sit there and go, in 2 weeks, Bled, exactly on the 13th of September, there will be a breakthrough, Bled. Because we don't know when the breakthrough will be. We see that the Russian units are in terrible condition, and it's been seen that that's been the case for about a month at this point. But they're still holding on just a little bit. We don't know when that breaking point will happen. We have an idea that's coming soon, but when, we don't really know. And we also don't know if the Ukrainians are going to be getting any magical weapons, like, F-16s here soon, that may start to change the war as well. Because while we hear that the F-16s probably won't arrive until the beginning of next year now, that's not in stone. We have to remember that we also heard that the AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles were going to be arriving in several months' time, and when that statement was made by the Department of Defense, we had already shipped them AGM-88 HARMs, and they had been using them at that point that the announcement was made. So we don't know when the Ukrainians will be getting some of the war-changing weapons like the F-16, and we also don't know how close the Russian units really are to cracking. We just know that it looks like they're getting very close. But moving on out of the Southern Front, we have to move into Russia, because this was the runner-up for the title of the night, is the purge continuing, and also another drone attack happening on Moscow. This is starting to become a nightly thing. It's like the fireworks show at Disney World, but instead of it being fireworks, it's military strategic targets being blown up by drones. It's still a fireworks show, and a lot of people usually get a whole bunch of fun out of it, but kind of a little different. And also, there's no giant rat involved, which kind of takes the fun out of the whole thing. But anyways, moving on from that, we have some pretty interesting clips to show, and also some other interesting things to cover inside of Moscow. But the chat has been going wild. And I gotta say, it's been pretty interesting. It's been pretty interesting to see what a lot of y'all have been saying. And so I want to make sure that we cover what y'all have been saying, because y'all have had a lot of interesting ideas and points tonight. And so, Matthew, tell us, what has the live chat been saying?
All right, and it is time for our infamous poll segment, the first one of the night. And our first poll says, Ukraine says Wagner, quote unquote, no longer fights in Ukraine, and is Russia's Wagner threat largely over? It looks like 49% said yes, Wagner has moved on. 26% said Wagner is still a threat in Belarus. 14% said, it's mostly not a threat and somewhat. And 12% said unsure. And on this one, it's somewhat tricky, because we did hear that the Ukrainian intelligence services said that Wagner is no longer fighting inside of Ukraine. That came directly from Ukrainian intelligence, so it's pretty credible. But we do know for a fact that Wagner is in Belarus, and also they're moving on to, I believe, Africa as well. But they still are in Belarus. So for Russia, I don't think the threat's over just yet. They still have to contend with the fact that they're right next door in Belarus, and they could decide to act up again. But as to Ukraine, I would say I would say Wagner is not a threat to Ukraine. But Enforcer, what say you?
Dude, I wish, speaking of that poll, I wish I had included the clip of Prigozhin in Africa, because like the video was so stupid, man. He was in the middle of like the savannah or something like that, you know, with no one around. There's like one vehicle like 300 yards away. He's like, Shoigu, I'm about to be doing something stupid. So like that was like the whole clip. I wish I didn't.
That's like the first time we've seen Nutsack ever since the last time he was on camera in Belarus, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the last time. Like, I think the last time we ever really saw him was, well, you know, outside of Russia and that summit that happened with the African countries in St. Petersburg. I think the last time we saw him, he was in his underwear in a tent in that camp near Babrusk in Belarus.
Yeah, that's the last time. I think he was half naked then, so that wasn't a good sight. But yeah, he's not a good sight under any circumstance, even if he's just like there with a shirt on, because you know his head's like a nutsack, so it's not very good to look at. But
Man,
you
I'm telling you, man, his warlord name in Africa will be Ugly Bastard. That's gonna be his warlord name.
Literally, call sign Nutsack.
Yeah, he's gonna win wars just from his looks, man. He's gonna run people off the battlefield just of how he looks. But anyways, he has shown up in Africa today. I didn't include the clip in the news tonight, but Wagner is now operating again in Africa. Of course, some of y'all may have been hearing, this has been a little bit, well, it's actually been not even covered on this channel, but there is a little bit of a civil unrest going on in Niger. The government was overthrown. A lot of the African countries in the area that are all a part of a similar alliance have largely excommunicated the folks in Niger. I don't know what they're called, because I know Nigerians are Nigerians, but what are folks from Niger called? I have no idea. Anyways, they're having this whole thing down there right now. It's a bit of a big issue to try and summarize it all into very simple terms. It's a big issue, especially for all the African countries in East Africa. And the French are getting involved. It's starting to become severe. And now the Wagner is showing up. We don't know where the Wagner are, because the Wagner kind of operates in this very edge of the Sahara chain, all the way from Sudan over to Mali. And really everywhere in between, including Chad and Niger. So we don't know if they're going to get actively involved in the governmental situation inside of Niger, or if they're going to get involved in the civil war in Sudan, because things are starting to pop off down in that area of Africa again. So we don't really know, but nevertheless, I would say that we're probably going to see that the Wagner isn't going to be that much of a problem for the Russians, at least for a small while. That's what I would assume, in my opinion. So I'd actually disagree with Matthew. While they are in Belarus, they are not the Wagner that existed before the coup. They've been stripped of their tanks, their APCs. They're largely a force of Scooby-Doo vans and AKs now, which is very similar to the Russian police forces that they would go up against if they marched back into Russia. So I don't think they're going to be that big of a deal, especially if they're used inside of Africa or if they stay entirely within Belarus. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our second poll, it says Germany rules that Ukraine's Moscow drone attacks are quote-unquote legal and within international law, and do you agree? 89% said yes, it is perfectly legal, 4% said unsure, 4% also said, and seems legal but maybe questionable, and 2% said no, it's really not legal. And first thing we have to establish is Germany can't unilaterally decide what is legal and not, but that is their opinion on the matter, so we have to give it some credibility. I would say that it seems like it could be legal because it depends on what's being attacked at any given time, and thus far, it looks like Ukraine hasn't attacked any place where civilians are. Even though it's right in the middle of Moscow and it's pretty populated, they haven't attacked or hurt any civilians. So I would say it seems legal, but it could get into questionable territory. But then again, just in the real world, just speaking on reality, Russia has been doing this to Ukraine for ages, and Ukraine is having to fight fire with fire now, basically. So outside of legalities, I can see an argument for it being totally justified. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, dude, imagine Germany being the legal arbiter of the world. Anything happens, what do the Germans say?
Oh, dear.
Oh, man.
They tried to do that before, I think.
Dude, in World War II, that didn't work too well. Everyone said, I wonder what the Germans are saying right now. Well, that's not that good. I think we're going to have to intervene. But anyways, I would say the Germans are, in my opinion, they're largely correct in saying the Ukrainian actions are legal. It is a war, and they're not going out of their way to kill Russian citizenry. In fact, we haven't even heard of any Russian citizenry being killed outside of the Kerch Bridge. I think 1 or 2 Russian citizens got killed in the last successful attack on the Kerch Bridge, but that's, I hate to say this because, any civilian casualty is unfortunate, but that's kind of something they couldn't control. There wasn't really a way that you can attack the bridge, which is a military strategic target, without there being the possibility of Russian citizens traveling across it. So that kind of was just the thing. You couldn't really avoid that. But they are not going out of their way to attack the Russian citizenry, like blowing up an apartment building or anything like that. So technically what they're doing is completely legal, according to what the rules of war are. They are attacking military targets, and they're not attacking the citizenry. Completely within the rules of war. Now, whether the Germans have the legal right to just make a declaration like that for the whole world to go off of, that's a whole other thing. And the answer to that's largely no. They can give an opinion. They can say that we think what they're doing is completely legal, but it's not something that is going to be the final word on it, because if that was the case, then, let's just say Lithuania could come in and go, from now on, annexing Russian territory in the West is completely legal. And then the Chinese go, yippee! And then they start just annexing places like St. Petersburg. That's something that, wouldn't really fly. That's kind of something that has to go through the United Nations or something similar, and then through the Security Council, and then someone vetoes it, and everyone's screwed, and everyone cries, and then, everyone does their own thing, and it becomes chaos, and people spend trillions of dollars in arms races, building up nuclear weapons to face each other down, and trying to screw each other over economically and ideologically by paying folks in other countries to say different stuff, to try and push further divisions and tear a country down internally. It's a whole deal. But anyways, the Germans, they're right, but, they don't really have a way to be the final word on it. So that's my opinion on the poll. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and that was our last poll for now, so of course, we are moving on to our Super Chat questions, and we have a ton of really good ones. And also, thank you all very much for the very generous support tonight and helping support the channel. And our first one goes to Kyle Leeson, who puts in a very generous $100 donation. Hey! And thank you very much, Kyle, for that very generous support. He says, Slava Ukraine. And do you think that Ukraine will be able to split the front before General Winter comes to town?
And thank you so much for the support, Kyle, and Slava Ukraine. I think Ukraine will be able to possibly get close to splitting the front before winter, but I've got to be honest, it's really hard to tell because we're assuming that once they make it past Robotyne and Novoprokopivka and they start making it down the highway, it wouldn't be that hard to make it to Tokmak. But then the Battle of Tokmak is going to become a thing, and we don't know how long that battle will last. Tokmak is a little bit of a more defendable position. It has a river passing through the middle of it. It's a very large town, and it has 2 major highways that feed directly into the city, meaning that there are 2 viable supply lines for Russian ground transports to make to Tokmak, meaning that it's a little bit more of a defensible position from the Russian standpoint. So I don't know how long that battle would last. I don't know if by that point it is such a breakthrough that the Ukrainians can just drive into Tokmak unopposed. That kind of will determine how quickly the Ukrainians can make it to Melitopol, which is where they will split the Russian forces in 2. So I think I would say maybe. I'm going to have to say a 40% chance that they would be able to do that, a 60% chance that they won't be able to do that. I'm fairly confident they'll take Tokmak by winter, but I don't think they'll be making it to Melitopol by winter at this point. I think Melitopol might be something that happens in the early spring of next year, or we may see that the offensive actually ends at Tokmak, with the Ukrainians now within firing range for most of their artillery pieces into Melitopol and the highway passing through. Because as long as the Ukrainians can screw over the M14 highway that passes from Berdyansk through Melitopol, and then from there, Russian supplies can make it from Melitopol into Crimea or further west. If you can just mess with that supply line, you could have tripped the Russian forces in this area, just logistically so badly, that a second offensive after that artillery campaign or air campaign is conducted, that would probably be a lot more successful in terms of the big picture strategic planning. So I actually have a feeling, for the most part, I don't think they will be taking Melitopol and splitting the Russians this winter. It'll probably be next spring. But with that, thank you so much for the massive amount of support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because folks like you help us to keep the thing rolling. You help us to keep the lights on. You help us to do everything in the background. And I got to thank you so much for the support and looking out for this channel, because it means a lot to us. And we're highly honored to think that you find it that worthwhile to support. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right, and our next super chat was also another very generous $100 donation, this time from Wes A. And thank you very much, Wes, for that support, and also for being a longtime channel viewer, by the way. He says, I saw that McLovin video today while scrolling through Facebook, and I busted out laughing. Walk with your boy. And a great job on the videos. And day 4, Ancient Guard.
Ancient
and
Guard.
Man, I saw that video so many times. That's not actually the guy. I'm sure you know that. But nobody actually knows who the real guy was that did that, like, radio tag voice thing. Like, you know, damn, son, where'd you find this? Nobody knows who did it. But it wasn't that guy, that's for certain. But that was a hilarious video. But Enforcer, what say you?
And welcome back, Wes, and thank you so much for the support. And the McLovin video, we referenced that so much on this channel. Real trap shit. Walk with your boys. That's, damn, son, where'd you find this? It's famous to Matthew and me. We make jokes on that all the freaking time. And I gotta thank you so much for finally watching that video, and hopefully that'll like give you a whole lot more to laugh on when we do that on stream, because we are always thinking of that video in the back of our heads and trying to find some way to fit that thing in. But thank you so much once again for support. And thank you for being here since day 4, Wes. You are, you know, I don't know. I mean, like, is there going to be a new category of guard? Because there's only been old guard and soldats up until this point. Do we need to create an ancient guard for the folks that were here from day 4 and earlier? Because maybe we could. That sounds pretty cool, to be an ancient guard. That's actually a pretty cool title, in my opinion. So we might do that. But that's actually a pretty good idea, Wes. And also, thank you so much for supporting us tonight, because folks who support the channel, they mean a lot to us. This is the only way we can keep this thing running. And I got to thank you so much once again, because support is always appreciated and helps us to keep this thing going. You know, y'all are really the only way we can do this as a full-time job, and we're always greatly appreciative to folks like you, Wes, who help to support this channel and help us to keep it rolling. So thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well, and walk with your boys. And so with that, we are on to the final one of this segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the Russian news.
All right, and the final super chat of the first segment goes to the Duncan VR channel legend, who puts in a $60 donation. And of course, we have animal noises, and this is in the super chat, so the bots can go absolutely rage wild if they want to, but they're going to be said anyway. Duncan says "Bamuba" on the fundraiser. Enforcer mentioned duck, quack quack. Matt did not make duck animal sound. I think I did, though. I dispute that. He says, "Baba, call him out, moo moo quack." Okay, how about Indonesia supply some of their MiGs to Ukraine, Baba, since they're getting F-15s? And he also said, "Oh man, I'm telling you."
Oh man, I'm telling you. And dude, I get so much of a kick out of that, thinking that a whole bunch of people from law school are watching this show right now.
They're probably so confused right now. They're thinking, what the hell is that goofball doing?
Man, they're like, man, that's cringe. But anyway, I'm just kidding. And I gotta thank you so much for the support, Duncan, and keeping the channel running. And did you make the duck noise, Manly? What is your best real duck noise?
I could have sworn. Was it a duck though? I thought he was saying an elephant sound last time.
I think it may have been.
It was an elephant.
But what is your best duck noise?
Hell, man, I don't even know. Like,
That's not a duck.
is that a duck? What
Dude,
was
that's Baba Yaga, man. That's Baba Yaga coming to get you. But anyways,
and the Russians hear that sound of, Baba Yaga, and they're like, oh my.
oh my, dude, you're sitting there sleeping and the blanket isn't covering your toes, and you hear that noise, you go, oh my, I'm dying tonight. But anyways, thank you so much for the support, Duncan, and helping the channel to keep on running. Oh man, I'm telling you. I got to thank you so much once again for the support. Oh man, I'm telling you, we get no respect around here. Oh man, but folks who like the channel, oh man, I'm telling you, they give us at least a little bit of respect. Oh man, I'm telling you, it's absolutely great, absolutely fantastic to know that there's people who still support the channel, help us to keep the thing running. Great news, great support, great turnout, and I got to thank you so much once again, because folks like you, great folks like you, help this channel to keep running. What do you mean, man? What do you mean, Jack? America can be described in one word. But anyway,
Come on, Jack.
what happened? But anyways, thank you so much once again for the support, Duncan VR. I had to do a couple of voices because while I don't do animal noises, I do voices. So, I said it. You can laugh. But anyways, I do voices, and so I hope you enjoy the little voices instead of the animal noises, because I don't do animal noises that well. But still, thank you so much once again, Duncan, for being an old guard of this channel and helping this thing to keep on running, because folks like you have made it possible for us to run this channel for so long and to continue to keep on running it well into the future. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And it's now time for us to move on out of this question segment and on up into the Moscow news. We're going to start off with the less exciting news and then floor it up to 100, because Surovikin was actually removed from his last command position today. That's right, that's not the most exciting news of the day. We're getting up to the next part. But Surovikin has been relieved of his post as commander of the military space forces. You heard that right. Russia also has a space force. It's just that theirs sucks because they don't have any funding. But anyways,
I guess that has something to do with the, that module hitting the moon and blowing up.
it probably did, man. They were sitting there in the command post going, "That's it. It's going to land." And you heard the Russian anthem playing in the background, and then you just heard like a little aluminum can cracking,
Yes.
and they said, "You're to leave the command, dumbass." But anyway,
Although I could have sworn this guy was in charge of the Ukrainian war effort. They're trying to act now like he was the commander of the military space forces.
well, he had multiple hats actually. So he was actually the commander of the the Ukrainian theater and the space forces at the same time. He was removed from his command of the Ukrainian theater. And then in the last command that he had was the Space Forces, and now he's been removed from that too. So now he doesn't hold any position really within the Russian army, and he's pretty much been forced into early retirement and early window jumping. But one thing that's interesting to me is how they made the guy who probably has his own orbit. They made him the commander of the military space force. I mean, like, hell, he is going to be messing with every satellite they launch because he is so fat that he's got a gravitational pull. The satellites are going to orbit around him instead of the moon. That may be why the trajectory of that satellite was off and it crunched into the moon's surface, is because of him.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, maybe. I mean, look at that gut and tell me that's not a globe.
Oh, jeez, man. He went for the low blow, jeez.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Look at that double
He
chin.
gets no respect.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. That head. Oh, man, we're not even going to get there, but it's bad, real bad. Oh, man. But anyways, moving on from that, he's been removed of his post. Anyways, getting on into the fun stuff now, we saw that Moscow got hit again by drones. The Russian government claims that there were 2 of them and they shot both of them down, but that mushroom cloud over there that's coming from the ground tells me otherwise. Tells me they're lying. So I would assume that they probably did blow up on their targets. We also got a little video clip of that. Y'all want to see it? I bet you do. It's the news, after all. Why wouldn't y'all want to see it? And so, here's the clip. Oh!
Damn.
Man, it's lightning. Everyone get inside. But anyways, very nice to see that they were able to get another little drone hit on Moscow. The Russians claim, and I also did this in the news summary today, but I have to make this clear because there are so many people who just buy things at face value from the Russians. Russians claim they shot them both down, and there was absolutely no damage caused to any buildings inside of Moscow. Remember when they did that about the drone that blew up on Moscow? They said a drone didn't even blow up, and then it was caught in the periphery of a camera at a rowing competition? And it was found
Yeah, I
out that they
remember
lied.
that.
Yeah, and you remember that time too when I don't know, they hit the Expo Center and they said the drone was actually shot down before it hit the Expo Center, and then we saw this footage of the damage that was visibly on the side of the Expo Center where the drone blew up. I remember
Man,
that.
they're always lying.
I remember that time that that drone blew up at Soltsy Airfield way up in Nizhny Novgorod, and the Russians claimed that only an aircraft had been lightly damaged, and beyond that, nothing had happened at the airfield. Do y'all remember that? Because I remember when the picture came out a day after they made that statement, showing a Tu-22M burning to the ground just an hour after that strike. Now, just to lay it out, I'm not saying that the Russians lie all the time. I'm just saying that the Russians lie as a force of habit. So going off of that, I would assume that that drone has hit something inside of Moscow, but it's probably going to take us another day to actually get the footage or any picture proof of what was hit. The Russians have claimed every single time a Ukrainian drone has flown into Russia, except for the one that hit the Kremlin, that they did no damage or there was no explosion at all. They even deny the existence of the drone. And we know that that's not true. And we know that going off of that precedent, we can't believe the Russians when they say that they shot down both drones and no damage happened. We saw a mushroom cloud coming from the ground. We saw a fairly large explosion. Both of those things put together, it's hit something, but we don't know what. And so moving on from the city of Moscow and all the fun news that's been going on in Russia, we're now going to be moving on down into our location unknowns. Starting off with the first one. Did I forget to tell y'all that while the Russians are lacking pay and also further equipment, they're also lacking basic things like water. So some Russian soldiers are coming up with more creative ways to sustain their hydrational needs. I'm not even going to show y'all this clip, but suffice it to say, this guy had to use some biological hydration to stay hydrated. That's what the video clip shows. I'm not showing it. But if you want to see it, go click on the link in the description below, and you can see the guy drink the yellow water. He's drinking that lime-flavored Gatorade. But moving on from that and into the next clip, we also saw the Ukrainians testing an underwater drone. I call this thing the Titan Submersible because this thing is going to be pretty explosive, but it looks a lot like it. Anyways, here's the clip. We're also going to be muting the Star Wars music, but we can see them moving the drone with the trailer. And this has got to be the biggest submersible drone I've seen so far in the war. This thing is the size of a small boat. And you know what they say,
Matthew? That thing like is self-propelled and everything.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
It's like a freaking Narcos with the size of this thing.
Seriously. It's like they took one of those like tractor trailer like milk hauler things and just took the wheels off it and threw it in the water.
Yeah, it's kind of like they did that. I wonder if they did. That might be what they're doing.
Could be.
Could be. Maybe. And we now see them lifting the drone out of the water? Yeah, they're lifting it out of the water and back onto the shore. But it appears that they've gotten a little bit of data from the tester. The test was successful. We don't really know, but this is the biggest drone we have seen so far in the war in overall size. And hopefully that is equating to the explosive power, the range, and the abilities of the submersible drone. And it's submersible. It's not like the other drones like Sea Baby, where they are on the surface and visible. This thing is going to be traveling under the water. Another thing that
thing is made by Ocean Gate, isn't it, and controlled with an Xbox controller, I hope. Or I hope not.
I hope. Nah, hell no. You want to hope for that. From what we understand, it's not, luckily. Ocean Gate actually went under when the CEO died. So just, throwing that out there. They don't even exist anymore from what I understand. But moving on back to the drone, something very interesting to think about is modern Russian ships, well, really any ship in the world, has a sonar system. And that's really the only way they can detect things underwater. Now, some of y'all are thinking about the little pinging noise that sonar makes. And they actually don't make that pinging noise. It's actually a way different sound that's multi-pitched and everything, but that's a whole other thing for a whole other time. The big thing is that they never turn that thing on. You know why, Matthew?
Why?
Because it boils the water around the ship, and it also kills sea life within dozens of miles of a radius around the ship. So due to that, they almost never use the active sonar system. And they largely use passive sonar, which means that they have a microphone in the water on the ship that listens to the sea, and considering that sound travels way better in water than it does in air, they can pick up the noises of submarines and ships nearby. That's largely how underwater submersibles are detected by surface ships. The thing is that if that drone right there is quiet enough, it might be able to sneak up so close to a Russian ship that passive sonar won't be able to pick them up in time, and it may actually be able to hit a Russian ship, or it may be able to make it all the way to the Kerch Bridge itself. Nevertheless, what we need to get from this is that this drone may give the Ukrainians a massive upper hand in fighting the Russian Black Sea Fleet at sea, and now they don't have to rely on the drone's raw speed to make it past the ship's defenses. Now they can start to rely on the stealth of the submersible to make it to the ship, hit it, and cause critical damage, knocking that ship out of the water or putting it at the bottom of the sea. And so we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and moving on into a very lucky shot that was made by a Ukrainian soldier with a Ruger SFAR 308 Winchester rifle. I'm going to have to pull this thing up. A Ruger SFAR. Let's see here. So I found a picture of it. Apparently it's self-loading. That's pretty cool. I've never heard of rifles self-loading. Insert everyone who's about to flame me in the live chat. That means it's semi-automatic. But there is the rifle that this guy is using in the clip. You won't see it in the video, but you will see him shoot down the drone. But this is it.
It almost looks like just an AR-10.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it kind of just looks like an AR-10 for it to have such a cool name. But anyways, moving on from that, that's the gun used in the clip, and we can now see him shooting down the drone. We can see the drone right there, and we can see him lining up the crosshairs. And pop, and he misses. But that's fine. There's always a second chance. And pop, and he misses again. But they always say the third time is the charm, and lo and behold, third time was the charm. He shot it down with a bullet.
That was a lucky shot.
Yeah, pretty freaking impressive. 3 shots took down a drone. So let's put that into cost. A 7.62 by 51 round or a 308 round costs around, at this point, I think about $1 a shot. So it cost him $3 to take out that $2,000 drone. You always got to think economically, folks. Wars are really about economics when you boil it down to its basics. So he got a real big return on investment right there, shooting down a $2,000 drone for $3. Not that bad. Moving on from that and into our our last bit of location unknown news, we got to see the Russian casualty report for the day. And it was pretty solid.
Yes, sir. They got 3. Nice. Oh, somebody put over there an updated version with the lunar lander on it. Do you see that one on the right?
Dude.
That's nice.
Dude, every time I think of that lunar lander, I just think of that thing slamming into the surface. You know, they probably were hoping that it would slam into, like, the Sea of Tranquility and hit the U.S. flag or something like that. They're like, come on, come on. And then it missed, and they went, yeah,
so.
Fire Surovikin.
And they had all their hopes riding on that thing. That was such an embarrassment.
Man, it was more embarrassing than the war itself, and that says a lot for how embarrassing something can get. But anyways, 3 Bobcat skid steers were destroyed, and we have had to create a new rule, sadly. Usually we would scroll through and look at the memes, and we would scream our lungs out at the memes, and we would be hyped about them because they're incredibly cool. However, I've started to notice that the Kyiv Independence comments section is getting a little raunchy, and I do not want to scroll through and end up seeing a Romania situation. So we want
unintentional.
Oh, it's totally unintentional. Also, by the way, it's time for us to cue most of y'all in on what that means. So there's someone out there that has been beefing with us for like a year at this point, and they ended up showing a and of course if you have kids, I'm going to give you a quick moment to get them away or something.
Just don't say the word or we could get age restricted.
Well, I'm going to try and describe it in the most technical or medical terms as possible. They showed a phallus on screen, live on air, for about 5 seconds because they went and pulled up on their main screen without previewing it first something. They typed in Romania, and then they scrolled through, and there were all of these weird, like, they were very, very weird anime ads. Yeah, and so he clicks on one of them, because that's a smart idea, and then he scrolls up through it, and then for 3 seconds, he sees a phallus, and just shows it on screen. Nothing's happened, weirdly enough, although that's a massive violation of YouTube guidelines to have anything like that on the platform. Nothing's happened, but that's always become a big joke to us, and if, anything ever comes up, at least we weren't the people to show that on screen. Anyways, moving on from that, now that y'all know the story, whenever we say Romania, that's what it means. 410 Russian soldiers were knocked out over the past 24 hours. Pretty nice to see, and hopefully they keep those numbers up. Somewhat lower numbers compared to normal, but it's not that bad. However, the numbers in other categories today were absolutely astounding. 27 armored personnel carriers have been knocked out over the past 24 hours. absolutely incredible. That is an entire battalion tactical group's worth of armored personnel carriers destroyed in a single day. Not only that, but another 30 supply trucks were also destroyed in the past 24 hours as well. Absolutely incredible, and of course great to see. 4 tanks were also destroyed over the past 24 hours. That's about enough to equip half a battalion tactical group. That was destroyed in 24 hours. It's a fairly good number, mostly right within the war's average, but that's what it is. 31 artillery pieces were also destroyed over the past 24 hours. Fairly good numbers. That's kind of keeping within the consistent rate of artillery pieces being destroyed per day at this point, but even though it's the consistent number we're seeing, it's still absolutely amazing to see and wonderful to know that the Ukrainians' counter battery is working so successfully. 3 drones and 2 MLRSs were also destroyed, and an anti-aircraft warfare system. All in all, the Ukrainians were able to inflict some considerable material losses onto the Russians today, but the infantry losses were a little low. But still, they are fairly high. You have to remember that the daily average for the British in the Second World War was around 440 soldiers a day. So even on one of their lowest loss days, infantry-wise, it's still as high as the average was for British losses on any given day in the Second World War. That's incredibly high. Moving on from that, out of the casualty report, it's now time for us to move on into the Northeast. The situation in the Northeast is a little vague. We don't really know what's going on here right now. There appears to be more videos and news coming out. From what we can understand, though, the Russians are attempting to conduct some kind of a small offensive here, and a bridge was blown up. There have been many different stories coming out about how this bridge was blown up. Some people said it was a Russian bomb that blew up the bridge crossing the Oskil River. Some people said the Ukrainians had blown up the bridge. And going off of these two stories, we don't know which one's true right now, so we're going to be giving a answer to both of them. Here's what we may be seeing. If this bridge was destroyed by the Ukrainians may be retreating to the Oskil River to set up a defensive position here. This means that they'll lose about 2.5 miles deep of front lines, but they will get a hardened defensive position along the river, which will be much more difficult for the Russians to cross, meaning that they can take their forces in this area and dedicate them to other parts of the front line if they wanted those strategic reserves. If the Russians blew it up, that means that the Russians, in furtherance of their offensive, are attempting to destroy the Ukrainians' ability to supply their own forces, and then in hopes they will be able to have a more successful offensive. Those are kind of the two stories that we're looking at right now, but I will show y'all the bridge being blown up, or more so the after effect of the bridge being blown up. We can see this car driving through the area. And you see some destroyed buildings, of course destroyed from the shelling that's been going on. And we can see the knocked out bridge right there. We can also see them blowing up the bridge back there as well. So fairly interesting to see. Once again, we don't know who blew it up. We don't know if the Russians blew it up or the Ukrainians blew it up. But either way, it appears that things are starting to heat up in the Drovchina area and also around Kupiansk. However, the Ukrainians are striking back, and we did see the Russian positions were hit somewhat heavily by Ukrainian artillery just today. When you see some Russian vehicles there, it appears to be a Ural and an APC. We see them in the opening, and we see the artillery hit dead onto the APC, knocking it out in the first hit. The MTLB then begins to schmuck. Oh, actually, we can see an instant replay here of the MTLB being hit. All in all, a really accurate shot by Ukrainian artillery. No ranging shot, just a dead-on hit right on the first mark. With that, we're now going to be moving on into our next clip, where we also saw a Ukrainian CV-90 firing back at the Russians. Most of the CV-90s that we've seen in action are either in action in the southern front, near the area of Robotyne, or they're all the way up here near Sinkivka in the Kharkiv region, which means that they're largely in the area around Kupiansk and Drovchina. But here's the clip. When you see the CV-90 right there, it's looking down the road and firing down the length of it. It's pretty hard to see in this infrared footage, but it's great to know that the Ukrainians are using these more modern APCs to lay down supporting fire for their infantry and to also hopefully inflict losses onto Russian forces. With that, that's the end of that clip right there, but that's all the video footage that we've gotten out of this area. From what we've also been able to tell, and let me make sure that I saw this correct at the beginning of the stream, The Russians have made no ground in this area either, which is a very important thing to note. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news in the area, and we're now going to be moving on south and towards the area of Izium, where we saw some Ukrainian sappers continuing the very arduous and difficult job of clearing out anti-tank mines that the Russians laid out almost 6 to 8 months ago in the war. That's what we have today. The weekend. Weekend. Mark, how's your weekend? Great weekend. I hope everyone has a weekend.
Are they disarmed?
Yes, they did pull the fuses out, so they're all good to go. It's safe. And after this, we will have a weekend. Yeah. Now we see a picture of the truck bed filled with mines. That's what we have today. Weekend. Weekend. And so with
Man, a great weekend. A whole truck full of mines.
We can tell this guy apparently was called in when he was off his shift, because he's like, weekend, baby, weekend. But anyway, it's great to see that they're still continuing the job of being sappers and continuing to clear out the minefields that the Russians laid, because these could be incredibly dangerous to Ukrainian citizens and farmers alike. Of course, farmers are not citizens. I'm just kidding. Farmers are citizens. I don't know why I've made a differentiation in between farmers and citizens, but this could pose a huge danger to the Ukrainian citizenry, so it's great to know the Ukrainians are tirelessly working on clearing out the mines. Moving on from that and on down into the Bakhmut area, there's been a little bit of news occurring here as well. Over the past 48 hours, and let me move on down here to make sure that we get the frontline changes correct. Over the past 48 hours, Deep State UA has updated to show that the Ukrainians largely control Klishchiivka. We have shown that the Ukrainians have controlled Klishchiivka for about 2 to 3 weeks at this point, so take that for what you will. We're getting our information from multiple maps, and it seems as though Deep State may be a little bit behind the curve. I'm not going to say that completely, and I'm not saying that as a knock against them, because we still use them as our primary map on the stream, but whenever we see their map, you always have to keep in mind that it may be a little bit slow to update, considering that they're trying to heavily vet their info, and sometimes that means that accuracy is thrown out in sake of making sure that every change is an actual representative change, backed up with clear and confirming evidence. But moving on into the northern flank, we saw that a Russian dugout was hit and destroyed. Mr. Biggs,
Oh.
but...
Ba-da-boom.
And we now see the grenade being dropped in the bada-boom. Oh, man. Dude, that Russian sat there. That Russian sat there and heard that thing clink on the floor, and he said, "Did I drop my keys?" And then he turned around just in time to see the grenade. Oh, oh no.
Oh, man, they get no respect.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. I turned around to see if I dropped my keys. I got a face full of shrapnel. Oh, man, I'm telling you. I get no respect around here.
Oh, well.
Oh, looks like he's just chilling
coming
now.
in to take a look. I think he's aight.
I think he's okay. Hey. Well, looks like the drone's still eyeballing him, so who knows? This might be the beginning of more fun.
Yeah, he's aight.
Yeah, he's fine. He's just staring at an ammo box there very intently. He's good.
He's having a conversation, a full-on conversation with someone.
He said, "I told you, Vasya, to not load or unload the ammo boxes, please." You now see him crawling through the trench.
What's he doing out there?
Man, he just crawling. Man, his nickname in the squad is now going to be Inchworm. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And great to see that the 30th Brigade was able to clear out another Russian outpost. Bless you. Moving on from that.
Excuse me.
Oh, excuse you, son. You're excused.
Damn.
But moving on into the southern flank, we also got to see that the Ukrainians were hunting some Russians near the Klishchiivka area around 48 hours ago. This was footage that came out from the 3rd Brigade, the 1st Company of the 2nd Assault Battalion. And here's the clip. Hunting for invaders with a GoPro.
I never heard a GoPro used for that purpose yet.
The stormtroopers successfully cleared the enemy's positions and the captured PCs and AKs. I couldn't read the rest of it. How we advanced through mined areas in the video of the soldiers of the 1st Company of the 2nd Assault Battalion. Wow, I read that just in time. The 3rd Assault Brigade continues its movement in the direction of Bakhmut.
АГП? Да. Магазин пусти. Дымовуха. Фляги ёбаные. Россия.
We see they got a little patch there.
И ПК лежит на входе. Тоже.
I guess you could say that they burned his patch. But anyways.
Конечно, конечно. Мы все заберем. Вот.
We see them checking out more abandoned Russian outposts and dugouts.
3 штуки, 4. Пружина, давай мне ПК. Есть контакт.
Here's some artillery in the distance as the squad continues to move down the road. And then the epic music comes in telling us that that video is largely over. But there was a small clip of the 1st Company and the 2nd Assault Battalion of the 3rd Brigade continuing their actions in the area, attempting to hunt Russians. Moving on from that and towards Andreevka, we can also see that the Ukrainians found a pile of rubles, about equivalent of 70 cents, and began to hand them out to the Ukrainian soldiers as war souvenirs. Check it out. That's equivalent to, let's see, that's 100 rubles. That's about $1 US. Wonderful. Oh, this guy's got 545. He's got 120 rounds of it? Dude. Man, why can't I be that lucky?
Wait a minute, what's he getting paid for it?
Oh, dude, he's just handing out rubles, man. This crap's, like, worthless. It's just like toilet paper.
Man, that ammo is a lot more valuable than that money.
Dude, let's see, 120 rounds of 545 would be like $70 right now. Like 80 maybe. So
man, he's rich.
Yeah, man, he's hit it. He's hit the bank. And look at that old GP5 gas mask over there.
Probably moldy and dank.
You know what's great about the GP5 gas mask filters is that they're asbestos.
Oh, is that the filter?
Yeah, like the giant green thing down there, the filter inside of it isn't charcoal based, it's asbestos based. So have fun breathing
to the
that
Russians. You're breathing in something worse than whatever it is you're possibly breathing in elsewhere.
Dude, they said, I might not be dying from a chemical attack, but damn, the mesothelioma be hitting special today.
Damn, this will fix him up really good. Forget the tear gas, Bliat. Here's some asbestos.
Dude, he's sitting there during a chemical attack. Is everyone okay, Blint? And then you look over this one guy, he's already wheezing and crap. He's I'm good. It's just I'm having difficulty breathing, Blint. It's no big deal. It's fine. It'll wear off eventually. But anyways, that's the end of that clip, and a funny one to see. Moving on from that and into our last clip, we got to see Starsky's home brigade, the 4th Brigade, continuing on a little bit of hurt against the Russians in this area. Rock music ensues. We can see a Russian shirtless trying to imitate a Vladimir Putin on the back of a bear. We can now see the Ukrainian drone coming in and ending this fantasy. Man, this drone pilot said, man, this guy delusional. Kill that fool. They flung the drone down on him. And they hit dead on the mark.
What even is that structure right there? What do they call that? Just a tent?
The
like,
hobo.
what is that?
The hobo camp. That's what they call it.
Really? It's just like they set up like an outhouse in the middle of nowhere.
Dude, the Russian commander said, okay, everyone, open up your manuals. Chapter 1, Section 2, the hobo tent. And then the hobo tent burned a little, and there's nothing really left of the hobo tent except for a little bit of the cover. They were able to get a pretty good hit on that one, I gotta admit. With that, we're now going to be moving on from the Bakhmut area and further south into Donetsk, where we saw near the area of Staromykhailivka that an MTLB was destroyed here as well today. Alright, sounds like cyberpunk's going on around here. In any second now, the thing will blow up. Okay, well,
someone said, that shed over there on the Russian side looked like Trump Manor.
Like, Soy Scoob, I don't think they're looking for boyfriends. Rubber Raggy hired escorts. But anyway, so you can see the MTLB roasting. Oh, man. And that thing's done for.
Well, I got some sparks flying up from the field, too.
Man, hell, dude, they went and hit that Movavi video editor on this one. I mean,
Yeah.
gotta admit, like it. But moving on from that little clip we got from Donetsk, that's the only action we saw in the entire Donetsk Oblast today. We're now going to be moving on down into the area of Kherson. Because yesterday we saw that a hyacinth was destroyed in this area. Not the flower, but the giant artillery piece named after the flower. Chad music ensues. We can see the hyacinth get absolutely leveled right there. And the ammo goes up right afterwards. There's the hyacinth. Hey, that doesn't look like a flower.
I was about to do that joke, but I just decided against it.
Well, I had to do it. I had to do it. It's so sorry. I have sinned. But we can see the little fire burned everything, all the foliage off of the hyacinth. And now we can clearly see it clear as day. Knocked out and out of action. Moving on from that and into a little bit of news that we got near Chelberta today, we also saw the 126th Brigade hitting Russian forces here. Wait a minute, hang on. I got something for that. Hey! A man is drowning in the river in Lego City. You can build the quadcopter.
Fits. That works.
That exactly fits. But anyways, but you see the Russians doing their thing, you know, wherever the hell that is. And we now see them trying to operate their mortar. It doesn't really look like it's crew served that much. It looks more like a one-man do-it-yourself kind of mission. Like sawing scoo. I don't think these guys got proper training. Raggy conscripts. But you can see the blue shirt man running off. It appears that he knows his time is nigh, and the drone came right down onto the mortar pit, knocking it on out. And so with that, let's see in that clip right there. And great to see that the Cord unit was able to take out a little Russian mortar battery in that area. It appears that they won't be firing their mortars at Ukrainian forces on the southern side of the Dnipro River, but they shouldn't have even gotten there in the first place. I thought the Russians were invincible and legendary. But anyways, moving on from that area of the Kherson front, it's now time for us to move all the way up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 545 of the war. And so, without further ado, here is the speech. And keep in mind, everyone, it's a bit of a lengthy one. But let's see here. Let's see here if I can get us some subtitles in English.
Man, that stage is nice. That's like the Gucci stage right there.
Man, that stage is so freaking nice. The subtitles just say ladies, and that's it. I mean, like, that's
Hey,
hey, ladies, walk with your boys. But anyways.
Пані та панове, з нами на зв'язку президент України, Верховний Головнокомандувач Збройних сил України Володимир Зеленський.
Man, they got that epic intro and everything.
Слава Україні! Дорогі наші захисники і захисниці, дорогі українські народи, дуже важливо та символічно, що напередодні свята української незалежності відкривається ветеранський форум. Незалежності не було би, якби не наші воїни, всі наші солдати і матроси, сержанти і старшини, офіцери і генерали, які на війні, вони в основі української незалежності. І це перший пріоритет державної політики – дати нашим воїнам все, що необхідно. Необхідно, щоб боротись, необхідно, щоб перемогти. Тому 24/7 ми працюємо заради найкращої в світі зброї для воїнів України. Зараз результатом візитів протягом цих днів є щонайменше 4 нових оборонних пакети від наших партнерів, а основне, чого ми досягли, це відкриття для нашої держави постачання F-16. Ми домовились про конкретну кількість першого постачання літаків від 2 держав – Нідерландів і Данії, і працюємо над ще більшим результатом. Я зустрівся з нашими хлопцями та дівчатами, які вже почали тренування в Данії. Також українські пілоти та інженери почнуть навчання в інших країнах авіаційної коаліції. Ми розширюємо тренувальні програми. І всі наші воїни неба мотивовані максимально, щоб якнайшвидше використати нові для нашої держави бойові літаки. За бойовим авіаційним показником Україна буде в топі найсильніших держав світу. Це означає те, що вдасться зберегти більше життів наших людей і військових, і цивільних. І всі двосторонні зустрічі, які я зараз проводжу в рамках саміту Україна-Балкани, Греція, Болгарія, Сербія, Молдова, інші зустрічі з іншими лідерами, всі вони посилюють Україну, всі вони допомагають нашій державі стати значно ближче до наших стратегічних цілей. Дорогі українці і українки, поки наша держава на шляху війни за свободу і незалежність, це обов'язок кожної нашої людини робити все можливе, а іноді неможливо, щоб Україна стала сильніше. Я дякую всім тим в державі, для кого такий принцип перший і головний. Багато чого залежить від простої ініціативності людини, від уміння не упустити можливість для України, від уміння переконати заради України, від уміння почути і побачити, що можливо зробити зараз, щоб Україні було легше боротись. Українці демонструють таку ініціативність. Серед присутніх в залі ветеранського форуму багато тих, хто має значні особисті досягнення заради України і знає точно, що часто усе залежить від однієї людини, від небайдужості людини, від рішучості, від того, наскільки людина є відданою своїй справі та захисту України. На жаль, у цій страшній війні ми втратили тисячі найбільш відданих, тисячі найбільш сміливих та небайдужих, тих, хто став на захист України в 2014 році, тих, хто став на захист держави після 24 лютого. Я прошу зараз усіх українців вшанувати хвилиною мовчання пам'ять усіх воїнів, які віддали своє життя заради незалежності України. Дякую. Цьогоріч ми заснували нову українську політику героїв, політику шани та створення можливостей для всіх наших воїнів, для всіх наших ветеранів, завдяки яким Україна жива. Щоб реалізувати таку політику, потрібні рішення. Ми всі усвідомлюємо, який обсяг цих рішень і яка відповідальність за реалізацію. Сьогодні на форумі урядовці представлять пакет тих рішень, які є першочерговими, щоб наші ветерани могли достойно інтегруватись в соціальне життя після повернення з війни. З війни завжди повертаються іншими, ніж йшли на неї. І тому це особливо складно після усього, через що пройшов, після усього, що довелось пережити, після усіх втрат, які бачив, особливо складно будувати життя. Але ви герої, ви потрібні Україні, кожен і кожна, хто б'ється заради України, хто наближав та наближає перемогу України. Мільйони людей воюють і працюють заради того, щоб Україна вистояла та захистила себе. Потрібні всі з цих мільйонів. Жодних втрачених доль. Жодних втрачених поколінь, жодних втрачених можливостей і, звичайно, не втратити час життя. Це головні принципи в основі політики героїв. Все в ній від вшанування подвигу українців до нових освітніх можливостей для ветеранів, від якості роботи ВЛК і реабілітації до економічних можливостей, бізнесових, юридичних можливостей, житла для ветеранів. Все в політиці героїв має бути таким, щоб допомагати людям жити. Будь-який посадовець, який цього не розуміє, буде замінений. Будь-яка нормативна регуляція, яка затягує час, повинна бути спрощена. Все в нашій державі так чи інакше має стати помічником ветерана, як на сьогодні є помічником воїна. І всі дієві ініціативи держави та громадськості, дуже важливо бізнесу, дуже важливо ініціативи самих ветеранів, всі, які направлені на більшу якість української політики героїв, на інтеграцію та допомогу ветеранам, повинні бути реалізовані. Попереду Покрова, День захисників і захисниць України. Саме у цей день маємо побачити, оцінити результат. Перший вагомий результат впровадження політики героїв та вирішення тих проблем, про які говоритимуть, зокрема, сьогодні на форумі. Я впевнений, що результат буде, має бути. Слава усім українським воїнам, слава усім нашим ветеранам і ветеранкам, слава Україні!
And Hiram Slava. And Hiram Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on the 545th day of the news of the war in Ukraine. And that means that the halftime show is now over. We are now going to be moving into part 2 of this stream, which is the time that we get to talk to all of y'all. Probably the most fun that we get to have during the show is getting to talk to each and every one of y'all, both in the live chats and in the super chats. And so, before we get to that, we of course have to talk to y'all as a whole, as a body, as a, let's see here, let me look, a pluribus, Matthew?
As a class.
A class, yeah. Y'all are the class of 2023. Welcome, class of 2023. Y'all are special. That's why we're giving y'all no parking. But anyways, moving on from that, which is something Matthew would know because we were both having to deal with that problem.
He is.
And I bet some people watching the show also have to deal with that problem. He is. But anyways, we have to talk to y'all as a whole. Kind of like the Ukrainian Congress, which is called the Rada, gets together and votes on things. Y'all all get together and vote on things in the live chat. And I want to hear what y'all been voting on tonight. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and moving on to our final poll and question segment of the night. Our very first one says, the U.S. says that Ukrainian forces are spread too thin, which is causing slow progress. And what are your thoughts? 58% said that could be a legit reason. 18% said it's plausible but unlikely. 12% said unsure, and 12% also said there is no chance that is the reason. And on this one right here, the U.S. isn't saying that Ukraine doesn't have enough forces. They're simply saying that they have spread them too thin along the front line, and that is causing a big slope in the progress. To me, that sounds like it could be plausible because Ukraine is taking on a rather large front line. Obviously, Ukraine might have the reasons for spreading the forces out like that, but the U.S., as a third-party observer, feels that they could concentrate them and probably make faster progress. But of course, that probably comes with some consequences behind it, which means that some areas are not going to be as well defended, and the Russians might be able to move forward even further if they're willing to move on from their entrenchments. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that I think that it may be a true statement. However, from what we've been told throughout the war, the Ukrainians have a somewhat significant strategic reserve behind the lines that's not even being dedicated to anywhere on the front. So, unless if they're contradicting a lot of their prior statements, that would be a good reason why the frontline progress may be slow. But we've always been hearing throughout the counteroffensive that there are more forces to be called up if they need them to be able to push the offensive. But now that sounds like they're changing that statement. So, to be honest with you, I'd have to say I don't really know because it's going against prior statements that have been backed up with actual facts. Like, for example, the amount of brigades they've had in that area. We have seen multiple times that they do have units down there that are in reserve that are just waiting to be put onto the lines. And all of them have not been fielded on the front lines all at the same time. There's still a reserve down there. So I don't know. I'm going to have to remain undecided on that one, to be honest, knowing that information from about a month or two ago. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next poll says the U.S. has offered to help with training Ukrainian pilots on the F-16 if Europe begins to feel overwhelmed. And what are your thoughts? 75% said the U.S. is already training pilots. 11% said it seems like a legit offer. 10% said the U.S. is just virtue signaling. And 4% said unsure. And on this one, I have a hunch, and this is speculation, that the U.S. is probably already training pilots, and this is their way of easing the public into a plausible explanation for why we're suddenly training pilots. Because this, to me, sounds a little bit sarcastic, a little bit of a weird statement, because Europe, why would they feel overwhelmed training some Ukrainian pilots? That doesn't sound right for some reason. So I think they're already here and being trained, and we're simply unaware of it. But Enforcer, what say you?
The Europeans, we're overwhelmed, America. Okay, we'll start training them. But first, we have to wait 4 months for preparation of training grounds, another 3 months to make sure that everyone's up to speed, another 2 months for the email memorandum to go out to everyone that will be involved in the training staff, another month for transit time, orientation for the Ukrainian pilots, which will be about a week of being there for about 12 hours a day. We'll take them to the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum for the hell of it. And then, finally, we will begin. But, of course, they have to make sure to have the required textbooks that they have to buy through the Department of Defense, and some of those won't even show up when they're supposed to, and so you just have to kind of get along with all the pilot classes without the books. By the way, the parking at the Pentagon is a little tough, so you might have to park over at Arlington Cemetery and then ride the shuttle bus over to the Pentagon. Once again, referencing things that Matthew probably knows is code for other things, but nevertheless, I would say it sounds like, in all honesty, it does sound like we are trying to come up with a good excuse as to why Ukrainian pilots are being trained in the United States without outright saying it. This is along the lines of something that the Soviet Union would have said in the Korean War, where they went, if the North Koreans get overwhelmed, we could always have Russian Soviet instructors. I mean, they could show up in North Korea and they could help them. And then they ended up sending pilots into North Korea that flew the MiGs. But that's beyond the point. It's kind of a similar vein, in my opinion. So I would say we're probably doing what we did with the AGM-88 Harms. We're already training these pilots. That's something that is most likely clear at this point. And it's just that we're trying to ease everyone into that idea of it being a reality. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we're moving on to our last poll, which says North Korea is waiting for, quote-unquote, the moment to punish U.S. and South Korea for military exercises. And what are your thoughts? 56% said, make my day, punk. 29% said, I don't care. Shut up, Kim. And 15% said, oh no, I'm scared now. And to me, I say, make my day, punk. North Korea isn't going to do jack crap. Let's be perfectly honest here. They aren't going to punish anybody. And it's like the one kid that really doesn't want to fight, but he's trying to act tough. I'm just waiting for the moment, man. Hold me back. Hold me back. He's not really going to do anything, and that's what North Korea is doing right now. So, they can shut up and sit down. But Enforcer, what say you?
What are they going to do? Starve on us?
Yeah, they're going to keep starving.
Don't you starve on me.
If you don't stop, we're going to keep starving to death. Well, go right ahead.
Man, you're going to have that overhyped up North Korean news reporter. She's going to be sitting there, we will continue to starve to death until the end of the regime because we are the best people in the world. She's going to be doing that. But I don't take that threat seriously. Don't they say that like yearly? Like, don't they? I mean,
yeah, they say that almost daily.
Yeah, they say that almost hourly. I mean, hell, I think they even say it minutely. I don't think they're going to do crap. I mean, that's all just hype talk from them again, because they're always talking about how they're going to burn down the U.S. Capitol building and destroy the wicked American imperialist. If they wanted to, how come they haven't done it since they've existed in 1950? Or even earlier than that. Hell, I think North Korea existed in 1949 or 1948 even. But anyways, why the hell have they not done it yet? If they want to talk all this talk about punishing folks, I think they need to stop punishing their people and at least get them one proper meal a day, so that way they can actually sound serious. If you can't feed your people and your people don't have any kind of quality of life, I don't take your nation seriously when it comes to threatening people. I don't. I mean, that's how I look at things. A lot of people look at the military side of things. I look at what the base of the military is, which is the actual country. You can't have a good military without a good country, you see. Because if you don't have money to spend on your military's garbage. Yeah, it can have a million guys in it, but what the hell can you afford? Some sticks and maybe a few AKs? That's nothing. You're not getting a military out of that. You got to have a great economy to start off with, so that way you can get some tax money off of it, and then you can spend that on the military. And you got to have citizenry with a good quality of life. You know, a lot of people always look at the United States, you know, at least before this war, and they always go, oh, America, it's so weak compared to the Russians. You see, Russian kids, they throw firecrackers at each other at recess, and they learn how to strip an AK. But it's like, yeah, but, you know, American kids, we grow up with Xbox and stuff like that. We end up learning how to operate drones fairly quickly. And the economy is so good, and the tax dollars the U.S. government gets because of that is so large. Hell, we end up actually knowing how to fly the drones pretty easily. Can North Korea say the same? No. Their kids are ending up losing their fingers in industrial machinery at 7 years old, and they don't even know what the hell a computer is, much less a TV. So what the hell are they going to do? You know, like shoot an AK at someone? Hell, if I can do better than that, drop a hellfire on them, see what they think about that. So to be honest with you, I don't really think the North Korean threat is serious. Of course, they have nukes. Everyone has nukes. Well, not everyone, but at least they have nukes. But that doesn't really change anything, because what are they going to do? Fire off a nuke at the United States and get glassed? I doubt it. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And by the way, have y'all ever heard of North Korean food, like North Korean cuisine? I bet you haven't. Because
Kimchi?
No, that's like a South Korean thing, you know, like
I think they both eat it.
Yeah, they do, but you know, like North Korea doesn't even have the crops to make kimchi. They have roasted potatoes. I think that's like their big thing in North Korea is roasted potatoes, and that's kind of like their version of a hot dog, nearly, because there's just.
I don't know if I was watching. I was watching some documentary of some North Korean family actually in North Korea still. It was most likely propaganda because they don't really let cameras in without a propaganda purpose. But they were eating some kimchi, a small amount of it. It was probably propaganda. I don't even know why I said that.
You're like, oh, they're eating something.
I defeated my own statement.
Yeah, I mean. Dude, do you really believe that the North Koreans are eating anything? I mean, hell, remember that
They're probably not. They're probably eating salted rocks like the other country is.
I mean, remember that one time that they took the tourists to Wonsan Harbor and they saw villagers going out to the sea and putting seaweed into trash bags because that was like the only food that they could get?
Now I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I remember seeing that somewhere. I'm gonna have to find that again because I got to show it to you. It was insane. Like there were like people out there on the beach, like dozens of them, not swimming, not hanging out on the beach. They were there entirely to go pick up the washed up seaweed so that way they could go home, boil it, and eat it because that was the only food they were going to be getting because the rations weren't good enough. So anyway,
I'm not gonna lie though. If I was hungry, I'd probably eat it too. If you get hungry enough, you'll probably eat dirt.
Yeah, but you know, yeah, of course you'll eat anything. But my thing is that the food situation is so bad in North Korea, the standard of living is so poor, people are having to scrounge for seaweed on the beach when they get off of their 10-hour factory shift or 12-hour factory shift to just try and survive. I mean, that's bad. You know, you don't hear about a lot of people doing that anywhere in the world, even in incredibly poor places. You don't hear about stuff like that.
Yeah, I gotta say, for just the civilian aspect of it, that's really sad that they have to live like that. And unfortunately, the civilians just get lumped in with the government as well because they're the ones representing the whole country. But it's not by choice. So, you know, in reality, the people in North Korea, I have a lot of pity on them, but the government's horrific. So you kind of have to, you know, it's a catch-22.
Yeah, it is a catch-22. And, you know, but the thing is, the thing that we've kind of seen with Russia, and I'm kind of starting to change my opinion on things a little bit, is that a lot of the Russian public, from what we understand, that isn't directly involved in the war, for example, in the military or the government or anything, they're blindly following the Russian government as far as the war goes. Even from Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Europe did an independent poll, and they said that 70% of the Russian public, this was like 3 months ago, supports the war in Ukraine and thinks that the Russians should win. 70%, and that was done by Radio Free Europe. You know, that's a Western aligned, that's at one time, that was a CIA-funded news organization right there, and they got that number back. I feel like the North Korean government has probably brainwashed the North Korean people so well that they probably would end up supporting the North Korean government if they were to take action, as in a war, against South Korea and the United States. I have a feeling that they would probably support it blindly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure they would. The only catch is, you know, I don't think there's really any circumstance that the North Korean people could be broken of that propaganda in a short time period. If they decide to do something, they're going to follow blindly, like you said.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, it would be hard to do that because when you think about it, North Korea is very, very special. They ditched communism, and of course, North Korea is technically a communist country, but what it really is, if you look at it, it's more of a monarchy because the Kim dynasty is the one that rules the country. There's no elections of any kind. There's not even power struggles. When a Kim dies, the next Kim replaces them. So it's largely a monarchy with some socialist aesthetics. That's the best way I could put it. And they've built up a cult of personality around that monarchical dynasty in the realm of Juche, which is what they call their version of communism, which is more so a monarchy. And they have instilled that into the public so much, and they've instilled this idea of pleasing the Kim family so much. I don't think you could break the North Korean people of that mindset easily at all. I don't think you could really break them unless if North Korea was completely defeated and somehow Kim was deposed or dead. I think that's the only way that you could actually break the Juche mindset in North Korea because it's so damn instilled. It's been instilled for 70 years without any opposition.
Yeah, that's why North Korea won't let them have a taste of like the South Korean lifestyle. Because once they see it and once they understand what it is, if they can see it on the internet, they're immediately off the Kim dynasty, probably for good.
Oh, dude, they would be getting out of there. I mean, remember, like the North Koreans that desert to South Korea or China always end up having some kind of exposure to Western films, that cross the border somehow through the black market. They always end up watching, they're like, man, life looks so much better over there. I had to go. And then they leave. That's always how it goes. You never hear, well, very rarely do you hear stories where it was like during the famine and they just go, I gotta leave or else everyone's going to starve to death and then they leave. But a lot of them are just them seeing the outside world and they're like, damn, it's a lot better out there than it is here. And then they get out here and then they realize it is. But anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well. Went through a whole rabbit hole on North Korea. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and with that being said, we are out of poll questions. So we're moving on to our Super Chat questions. And up first, we have a very generous $50 donation from none other than Troy Wilson. And thank you very much, Troy, for that support. And he says, have you seen the latest Wagner recruitment clip? It's a real gem. What are they promoting now? Like a guaranteed, like no death, like clause in there or something?
Would you like to make money? I would say Wagner recruitment clip. I haven't seen that lately. I've seen a lot of recruitment clips. I've seen a lot of propaganda clips from Russia, but I haven't seen the Wagner one. Let me go see if I can pull that up on Twitter. Of course, on the second screen. So let's see here. Don't type in Romania, everyone. Don't type it in.
Don't look up Romania.
Don't pull up Romania.
Man, oh my goodness. I hope no kids were watching that.
Yeah, y'all didn't see that. Pretend you did. It was like, it's too late now. I should have just, looked at that on the second screen. Seems to make sense to me. But anyways, I can't find it. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm trying to look. I'm not finding anything. Wait a minute. Oh, hold up. Oh, that's a, that's like an election campaign like thing, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something else. I can't find it, sadly. So, unfortunately, I haven't seen it, and it looks like I can't find it either. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But I can't find it, so I would have to declare ignorance on it because I can't see it, and I wasn't able to find it. But I will look for it, and I will see about probably putting it onto the news if I can find it. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much once again for being an old guard of this channel and supporting us, because we are highly honored and highly praised when, highly honored when folks support this channel. And I gotta thank you so much because you're helping us to keep this thing going. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right. And also I saw, let's see, chemtrails say it's literally impossible to escape from North Korea right now. Everything is the worst thing ever for the people. And that is true. Like, they've cracked down on the potential escape routes out of North Korea significantly since the last couple have tried to escape and defect. And some actually got out. And they have, like, put mines everywhere they could possibly get out. and they have gone through big measures to make sure that they can't just like literally run out like the other guys did. And if anyone even tries to do it, they're probably going to get blown up by a mine, or the guys are going to jump out of a van from the North Korean side and shoot them as they're running across the border. The only way to go across the border at this point is to do like that U.S. soldier did, which is basically run straight through the demilitarized little line right there and go right into their custody. But there's really no way out because they'll kill you before you leave.
Hang on. Let me go find that bridge real quick. I could go find it. Oh, man. Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? No, that's not it. Man, I gotta find that freaking river. Where the hell's the river? Okay, so the river would be like somewhere over here. Yeah, there it is. Where's the bridge? You know what? We'll go with this bridge right here. Man, that guy.
The Friendship Bridge?
Was it the Friendship Bridge?
I think so.
The Friendship Bridge. Is this one it? Man.
What does that say?
That says something in Korean. Wait a minute, hang on. It is the Friendship Bridge. This is it right here. Okay, so this is the one we're looking for. All right, so that man sat there. He started off on the bridge right here, and they said, "Wait, come back!" And as he was running off into the distance, he was going, "Ati, ati," just running across the bridge. I think got picked up by a freaking van. And you know what they found out is that the guy had actually been in contact with the North Koreans for a little bit, and the whole thing was planned. That's why the van was there so quickly.
Wait, you're talking about the guy who recently defected to North Korea?
Yeah, the whole thing was planned. He had actually been in contact with the North Koreans for some time, apparently, because the van literally pulled up as soon as he got to that side of the bridge. He hopped in, and they took off.
Well, that's a huge failing on the military's part. I didn't hear that piece of the story.
Yeah, I heard that part.
How the hell did he get in contact with North Korea? Like, what did they just ring them up or something?
I guess they just had Korean agents in South Korea. They heard about his situation and were like, "Oh, hey, look, he's in a bad spot. Maybe he'll defect." And then he ended up defecting. But then again, he was a private after all. You know, it's like, what is he going to do? You know, he'd give away classified information. I mean, hell, he doesn't know anything. The best thing he knows is like squad level tactics and how to tie some shoes and do a bed, and that's it.
Who lets a private on the phone or have the ability to communicate with a foreign country that's hostile like North Korea? That's astonishing.
Well, I mean, it's not really like the U.S. Army was like, "Here's the phone in North Korea, call them up." You know, it's more like the North Koreans probably reached out to him and talked to him in South Korea.
Like with him being under investigation for a potential disciplinary action, it seems like they'd have had him under scrutiny, especially then. But even normally, they should.
Yeah, that's a good point. But apparently they didn't. I mean, apparently that's just the way the Army works. I don't know how the Army works, to be honest with you, Matthew, but good golly, they work in mysterious
I'm beginning
ways.
to understand. Oh, man, they're getting no respect around here. They need to tighten up that ship.
I'm telling you. But with that, I hope that does address
That's just a joke, by the way.
Oh yeah, joke, by the way. It's completely a joke.
The military is great, but they do have some shortcomings that need to be addressed, seriously speaking.
And so with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on rolling.
All right, and up next, big shout out to Steve Watkins at work, who puts in a $50 donation, and thank you very much, Steve, for that. And we also have a 20 from Marion Deemert as well. And we don't have comments from either super chat, but Steve and Marion, thank you very much for supporting the channel in a massive way and helping to keep us running. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank both of y'all for the support. Y'all didn't put in comments, but y'all did throw in support. And I gotta thank y'all because y'all help this channel to keep running the way it does. Sponsor-free, ad-free, on the live streams. Y'all help this live stream to be what it is, unique and special. And I gotta thank y'all so much for the support and looking out for this channel because it means a lot to us. And of course, without y'all support, this channel wouldn't be possible. And so we thank everyone who supports the channel, both big and small. And so with that, thank y'all to both y'all so much once again. Hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here, we have one from, let's see here. I saw someone say real quick, do you think Dennis Rodman can solve the diplomatic row with North Korea? I mean, it was a good try, or a good attempt, but really I think all it ended up doing was basically affirming the regime. It didn't really serve any diplomatic or negotiation purpose. It just kind of gave basically a celebrity visit to the dictator. But I think there was good intentions behind it. Although Dennis Rodman claims he didn't even know what he was doing over there, and he was shocked when he met the guy because he didn't even know who he was. So, you know, I think the CIA had something to do with the visit. Though.
Man, Dennis Rodman said, "Who the hell are you?" Who's this guy?
He literally did. He literally said that. He said that everybody started clapping and crying for this guy. I was like, "Who is this guy?" And it was literally Kim.
Man, dude, Kim Jong-un is like a huge fan of basketball, so I bet if he knew that, he would be super offended, especially at that time. He would be like, "What the hell do you mean?" But dude, that's actually crazy. I didn't know that. I thought Dennis Rodman actually knew what he was doing over there, and then he came back. He was like, "Man, he's just misunderstood." It's like, no, man. It's like I don't think he's misunderstood. I think he misunderstands the world. But anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that question fairly well. That was a interesting one from the live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Drunky Monkey, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Drunky Monkey, for that support. Hey! And he says, for Andrew, and he gives you a script to follow. So I'm going to put it in the live chat real quick and let you follow that script.
And we're waiting for the script. And we're waiting for the script.
It's coming through.
And we're waiting for the script. Which is more likely? Hey, he got spending time in Wonsan Castle. That is so. What would NATO or U.S. direct combat in Ukraine look like? I don't see it. I have the live chat on. I'm not seeing it. Script. Didn't Dennis Rodman get convicted of domestic violence? I don't know. I don't really know this guy's story too well, to be honest with you, Sipes. I don't really know. My dad came from a commie country, and I'm sure GCHQ or MI5 used to track our phone line. It's always used to click. Yeah, our TVs used to do that too. Programming. Twice upon time, courtesy.
It was right between that one and the last one. You don't see it?
No, I'm not seeing anything you're putting out.
Watch this then. Oh man, I'm telling you, I bought a waterbed. Oh my. I found... Whoa, what in the world is that? Let's see. I found... Oh, I don't know about that part. Here I'm Slava and long live the LSA.
Oh, man,
The second part is sketchy. I don't know what that means.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. He puts in a live chat twice. I never see it, and then he doesn't even let me know what's in it. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. I don't know why I can't see him in the live chat. Oh, man, what the hell's going on?
I sent it to you on Discord as well.
Oh, man, you know I can't do that. Oh, man, I'd have to pull it up on the screen. Oh, man, it's terrible, terrible.
But anyways... I do thank you for the support. Matthew is apparently censoring it for something, but I do thank you so much for the support, helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you make this channel possible. Since I can't read out that one, because, well, actually, maybe I can. Let me just take my Discord and drag it over here. Oh no, we can't read that one. That was too spicy, a little too spicy, you see. So... Sadly, wouldn't be able to read that one off because that one, I don't know if it stands the test of time, but I'll do a couple that I can do. Oh, man. Oh, my God. I'm not going to lie. It's not that bad of a joke, but still, I mean, oh, man.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
But anyways, let me try and get a couple out here. Let me try and belt out a couple of them that will be okay.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. My parents hated me when I was a kid. Hated me. Oh, man. In the bathtub, my toys were a toaster and a radio. Oh, man, I'm telling you. My parents, oh, man, the family, real stupid. Oh, man, really stupid. My father, in the Civil War, he fought for the West. Oh, man, I'm telling you, he was really stupid. Oh, man, but the stupidity...
What a dummy.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, real dummy. Oh, man. But we're not even done there. Oh, dummy. Oh, man, I'm telling you. I was so ugly that as a kid, I never got a girlfriend. I just had to carry around a dummy with a wig. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, real dummy. Oh, man, and I was a dummy, too. Oh, real dummy. I went to school one day, and the teacher said, what's 2 plus 2? And I said, 5. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, man, 1984 up in here. Oh, man, terrible.
But anyways, I thank you so much for the support. And I hope that's what you were kind of looking for, because I know we didn't read the one off that you sent. But I admit, that was a pretty good one. But I couldn't read it off still. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because, of course, we are greatly appreciative for your support. And also for you wanting a good joke. Also, Marcia Tucker just said there was a Discord channel. Apparently in response to someone saying, is there a Discord? We do not have a Discord. To explain,
we got rid of that troublemaking application.
To explain the reason why, there was far too much drama going on in Discord to make it worthwhile. And on top of that, moderators, no matter how well picked they were, always ended up having some kind of a power complex where they felt like it was necessary to either have no input from me on how my Discord was run, So I couldn't tell them anything. Otherwise, it was great offense. And also,
not all of them though. I will say there are some exceptions.
Oh yeah. There was,
you know, if don't get offended if you were moderating, you're still here. If we're talking about the other ones.
Yeah. The few the real mods that are still here. Not talking about y'all. Largely talking about the other mods. But the other mods were so bad 2 times in a row that it just doesn't make it worthwhile to open up a Discord again, because it takes a lot. It would take a lot of management on my end. It would take a lot of micromanaging and oversight. It's going to be nothing but drama. And I'm in law school right now. Matthew's also in law school too. So who has time for that at this point? Really nobody. So, you know, we won't ever have a Discord again. I'm fairly certain on that. It also took a lot of stress off of me, because then I started to find out some things during the second schism that made me very unhappy with how things were being managed, because apparently serious stuff was going on that I'm not a big fan of, that I wasn't being told about. I'm not going to get into exact details, but I wasn't being told about it at all until the schism started happening. Then they're going, well, you know, this and that happened. And I was like, why didn't y'all tell me that? That's like something I would want y'all to tell me about. Oh, you know, we just decided not to. I was like, well, what the hell's wrong with y'all people? But anyways, and I'm not talking about all moderators, just talking about some. But with that, hope that does address that fairly well. What?
It's the Watcher.
Oh.
You know, when the Watcher shows up, we're getting into trouble territory.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. I hope that does address that fairly well. If anyone was wondering, where's our Discord? We just don't have one. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Man, the Watcher is like our management. Like, they show up whenever there's something questionable being said. They're like, oh, hello? Oh, no, move on. We're moving on. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat. We have a $50 donation from Butchie777. And thank you very much, Butchie, for that very generous support. And they said, I've never been to a Taco Bell, but heard it mentioned here many times. And there's one just opened up in Grantham near me. And should I try it or avoid it like a Romanian Google search? And Grantham is best known for Sir Isaac Newton, who invented the cat flap. Don't go to Taco Bell. It's terrible, but the enforcer will tell you different, but you'll regret it for days. Enforcer, what say you?
Let's go to Grantham in the UK. All right. So here's Grantham. Where's the Taco Bell? There's Sainsbury's. There's Morrison's. Where is the Taco Bell? Taco Bell, Taco Bell. There's a McDonald's. Is it a drive-thru? Oh, it is. Dude, I remember some of the McDonald's over there were not drive-thrus. You actually had to go in and eat. Which, coming from America, is weird. I know for the Europeans here, it's normal. But for us, that's just bizarre. Oh, there it is. There's the Taco Bell. Let's see what it's got. It's got review.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. It's sinking like a stone. Oh, man.
Let's see. Quite possibly the worst Taco Bell I've been to. Not one, but 2 items from our order were missing. That's the American experience, man. That's just how it goes. Both of the fries, Supreme, have been carelessly launched into the bag upside down. Dude, that really is the American experience. Hold on. Like, that's just what you expect from fast food in the United States. Not that there was much topping on them. There was only sugar on 2 halves of 2 out of the 6 churros in the box, which wasn't normal sugar. It was cinnamon sugar. The store was not busy. There was 1 delivery guy and 2 other lads in there. Absolutely outrageous. Absolute unit. That honestly, like, that review sounds like normal experience at Taco Bell here in the US. So nothing really exemplary there. I mean, you know, poor customer service comes with fast food. Let's see here.
Didn't we pass through this area? Where is this in England?
Where is this in England? This is not where we were. Wait a minute. No.
I think we did pass through there.
It was. Yeah, it was, because we were driving up the M1, weren't we? Yeah.
Show me the street view of this place.
Hold up. Dude, we did. Hang on. Let me drop down on the street view here, because
show me that Taco Bell. Like, I think we passed exactly by that street.
Dude, no. We didn't pass by that street. We were on this highway right here. Remember, like, we came around the corner and we didn't stop here. We just drove by Grantham.
I could have sworn we pulled into there to, like, go get something to eat.
Let's see. Well,
like, I could have, like, go over there and put that, you know, that street view thing over there on the Taco Bell street.
Nah, man, I swear we did not go down here. Yeah, we totally didn't go down here, man. Like, I don't remember this.
Oh no, this is looking familiar as hell. That McDonald's right there is like I just saw it yesterday.
Yeah, but all of them looked the same in the UK that had a drive-thru. I mean, they all looked like that.
Like we only came across one or two that had a drive-through, and this one looks like this one has a drive-through.
Yeah, but
No, I'm guarantee you we went through here. We went through your place. We did.
No, hell no. We went through that road chef thing further up the road, didn't we? Because that's what I remember. I remember passing that place, and there's a like rest stop road chef thing up here somewhere. Maybe this is it. I think that's it. Is this it? Wait,
Yes,
hang on.
that is it.
That is, yes, this is it, because we dropped by here. That is literally the place.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we went in there and we got those pasty things. We didn't stop in Grantham. This is where we stopped. And where is this? Let's see. What town is this?
It's a roundabout.
Yes, Tesco Express. We stopped in the town of Tesco. I'm just kidding. We stopped in the town of New Balderton at that little rest stop. Oh, dude, look, it's that new neighborhood that we drove into after we went there. We were like, what? New houses? And so we ended up driving through this new little development. Let me drop you down there.
That's
Matthew.
so crazy.
Yeah, look at this. Remember we drove through this.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, so we didn't stop in Grantham. So yeah, we did. We stopped up here at Fernwood and Balderton, not down at Grantham, which was just literally a few miles down the road. But it appears that the reviews on this are pretty on par with what a Taco Bell would be here in the United States. Let me take you to one in Birmingham, and we'll see if the reviews are similar, because there's a lot of Taco Bells in Birmingham, like loads of them, because it's kind of a normal fast food chain here. So let me see.
Another nice guy said, those houses are creepily similar. We said the same thing when we drove through it. We're like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know if I like this neighborhood. It's so different from, like the American neighborhood. It was almost off-putting.
Kinda, yeah. Oh, look, oh, wait a minute, hang on. It doesn't show that there. That's weird. So here's a Taco Bell here. Ratings 3.3. So you can see the ratings are kind of all the same. It's not like the perfect service or anything. I would be honest with you. My previous experiences with Taco Bell are kind of turning me off from Taco Bell. Usually I'm saying it's okay. It's not the best food, but it's food. But if I had to be honest with you, I would say probably not. I'd skip Taco Bell. I'd maybe eat at McDonald's, or I'd eat at a local restaurant, support a local business. That's what I would do instead. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, Butchie777. And also, pretty cool to hear that Grantham is known for Sir Isaac Newton. That's really neat, because I actually didn't know that. And also, where the hell was Grantham again? Because we're on the M1. Oh, yeah, no, it's over here. So there's Peterborough, Biggleswade. Where the hell was it? Like, now it's gone. There's Stanford. Remember, we stopped in Stanford.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, remember, we drove into the town. There was no parking, so it freaked Pops out. And then we ended up driving right back out. Like, here, I'll show you the street.
I remember we stopped at, I think it was Oxford. Someplace had a university in it. Pretty sure it was Oxford.
Yeah.
Reminds me of this place.
But remember, we drove down the street, and they're like, where the hell do you park? Because the lanes are so small in this town, because it's a town from the Middle Ages, so the roads weren't that wide. And we were like, hell, we're not getting out here. We're just going on. So we got to miss Stanford, sadly. So that was kind of unfortunate. But anyways, where the hell is Grantham, man? Like, there it is. There's Grantham again. But if that is not that far from you, I heard there's one just opened up in Grantham near me. That is actually really cool. Let's look around Grantham, because we didn't even take a look at the town. We just looked at the Taco Bell. So let's drop down into the middle of town. Oh, wow, this is actually pretty nice. Yeah, I like this.
That's not bad.
Yeah, not bad. There's some wood up there in the windows, but I'm sure they're just renovating. Restaurant to let. Huh. What does that mean?
You gonna let it?
I mean, restaurant to let. You may let. But, oh, okay. But I know what it means. I'm just kidding. But really cool. Really cool to know that you live in Grantham. We literally drove by there years ago on a vacation out there. That is really cool. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Butchie777, and allowing us to go on a rabbit hole about Taco Bells and Grantham. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next super chat, we have a $20 donation from none other than Troy Wilson yet again. And thank you very much, Troy, for the second support of the night. He says, we only have one Taco Bell in my city, and it's super busy.
Oh, that's it? I thought you were continuing on. That's
it.
Oh, that's it? Well, thank you so much for the support, Troy. And that's interesting to hear that your Taco Bell is always super busy, because where we live in Birmingham, it's like every other fast food joint that is busy except for Taco Bell. And that's kind of what's nice about it, is that you don't have to wait in a line or anything. You just go through and get the diarrhea-inducing food immediately. But anyways, pretty interesting to hear. And I thank you so much for the support, Troy, and also sharing with us what a Taco Bell in Australia is like. But thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Cliff H, who puts in a $13 donation. And then he runs Cliff for that support. He says, why was Enforcement Matt sneezing? The answer is, too much pollination.
Oh, well, I thank you so much for the support and throwing in a good joke. That was a solid one. But sadly, that will get you exiled. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And that's a pretty good question. Why is Matthew sneezing? Well, it's because he does. He is a human, and humans are subject to air every once in a while, including an occasional sneeze. That almost sounds like one of those, I don't want to say goofy, but it sounds like one of those goofy court holdings that I'm having to read about every once in a while, like the well-queefed boy who wanted the Harrier jump jet from the Pepsi company. You know? Man, I can't get over how they said a well-queefed teen. It's like, what the hell does that have to do with anything, man? Like, who cares what the hairstyle is? You know, like,
that young man is not entitled to a Harrier, because what young man wants a Harrier?
And what school has a landing zone? It's like, what? It's like, what? You never thought of the jet being used out of the confines displayed in the commercial? You know, it's like
man,
that's
I'm getting tired of that Leonard versus PepsiCo case. I'm getting tired of it.
Man, I'm telling you, man. Leonard about to have to take it easy, because I'm getting tired.
Chill out, Leonard.
I'm getting tired of Leonard. I'm not gonna lie, because like, here's my thing. Here's my gripe about Leonard and PepsiCo. All right, just to go off on something that Matthew will know. What's stupid is that the whole holding in the case is, what kid needs a Harrier, and also, how in the world would he use it within the confines of the commercial? It's like, have you ever seen like this will be the same example. Wheel of Fortune, they roll out the car at the end of the show, and they win the car, like, technically, but then Wheel of Fortune doesn't want to give them the car, so they sue for it, for a breach of contract. And then the court goes, what person owns a Wheel of Fortune set to roll out their car onto? Obviously, that's unrealistic. It's like, well, obviously, it's not going to be used at Wheel of Fortune. It's a car, you know, like, that just... That whole holding was really annoying. That boy should have gotten that jet. I'm telling you, man. That damn kid needed that jet. But anyways, with that, enough rabbit holing. We are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Jay Bagwell, who puts in a $10 donation. And excuse that voice crack, and it's good to see you once again, Jay. He says, General Ben Hodges have an excellent interview putting the Ukrainian offensive in perspective. And he mentioned that after D-Day, the Allies were pinned down for about 8 weeks after they stormed Normandy.
And I thank you for the support, Jay, and that's true. The U.S. Army, well, really all of the armies of the D-Day invasion, the British, the Canadians, and the Americans, were all bogged down. I think there was actually... I'll have to look back at that. For some reason, I'm thinking there was also a French landing party. There were French, but I don't think they got their own beach. But I might be wrong with that. I think they did get one. I just can't remember the name. Anyways, they all did get bogged down in Normandy for about 8 weeks because they were having to fight through the bocage outside of the beaches, which is a hellish place. It's filled with hedgerows. I think you can still see it now because the bocage exists strongly to this day. And so let me see if I can find some of the bocage. This'll do. I'll drop y'all down here. Hopefully it still exists, because if it doesn't, I'll look goofy. So, drop. Nope, the bocage is gone. Apparently they decided it was a strategic hindrance and got rid of them all, because there's no bocages around anymore. But back in the day, they had these goofy hedgerows that were actually made of dirt, and there was hedges growing on them, so you would think the thing was just a hedge. You run into it, and lo and behold, it's a berm with a hedge grown on top of it. It was a huge issue. It caused everything to become hell on earth because tanks couldn't move around. The infantry was having to find these tiny little spaces, which were just deadly if there were any killing fields set up. It was horrendous. So it took them a long time to get out of that area. But once they did, they started to make ground. And that's kind of, like Ben Hodge is right, that's kind of what the Ukrainians are dealing with now. It's not the bocage of France, but it's a bocage of its own right in the plains of Ukraine with the minefields, the fields with the tree line separating them and such things like that. It kind of is like a bocage on a larger scale. And so with that, thank you for the support, Jay, and also sharing that interesting little tidbit with us tonight. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on rolling. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $10 super chat from Neil Vizanot, and thank you very much, Neil, for that support. He says, I heard that the Russian defensive line is already falling apart because they had civilians build it instead of military engineers, and have you guys heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything about that, but I wouldn't doubt it. The Russians actually contract out most of their army's logistics to civilian firms, and that was actually a huge problem even before the war began, is that the Russians were arguing if that model should continue to exist or not, and in reality it shouldn't. So they may have actually contracted civilians to build the defensive positions because they do that for their logistics even up until this point in the war. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support, Neil, and I hope that does address the question with a little bit of facts to back it up. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from none other than Psyops, who's also a mod. And good to see you, Psyops. He says, since the ocean is full of trash, think. He puts in the thinking emoji. He says, does that make the Little Mermaid a Garbage Patch Kid?
Interesting. Like a Cabbage Patch Kid. This is interesting.
Or a Sour Patch Kid.
Like an Airhead Kid. But those kids, their heads always blew up. You know, I wonder if the Airheads commercials are against the Geneva Convention. Is that considered some kind of a brutal punishment or execution, having your head blow up from eating a gum?
That's probably just a crime.
Yeah, probably just a crime. That's a tort. Battery. I'm just kidding. But anyways, I would say, yeah, I think she would be a Garbage Patch Kid. Especially if she's from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch out here, like, in this area, I think. I think it's actually where the sea is less, what would you call that? Less deep.
Whoa.
What happened? I don't mean to cause a wake about this or anything, but maybe. And so with that, that spun around the world really quickly. But with that, thank you for the support, Sibes, and thank you for thinking deep, because that is the deep kind of thoughts I like to hear on this channel. It's not always about the war, but when it's not about the war, it's the questions that should be asked. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you for being here with us again tonight, Sibes, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to New Jersey, UFOs, Secret Space, and Chemtrail, who puts in a $10 donation. It says, take a question from the live chat, and you are both very knowledgeable on all kinds of world affairs, and very impressed. And thank you for the kind words. And it said, just an FYI, I joined the LSA the night of the coup, and that show was amazing. And thank you.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for being here with us since the coup. That actually wasn't that long ago. I think that was like 2 months ago, maybe. So welcome, and welcome to the Lee Spring Army Soldat. And to say this, first off, thank you for the high praise. We try and make the show as good as we can. Of course, every once in a while we, we have a false statement or something like that. But it is live, and so, I always excuse it by, it's live. If it wasn't live, it's a different standard, but it is live. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying how we've been covering this war and reporting on the news since you've been here. And also really cool to hear that you joined during that stream, because it was actually one of the highest viewed streams. Well, actually, it was the highest viewed stream in channel history. It got 280,000 views, which makes it the #1 most viewed live stream we've ever had. The interesting thing about that is that a lot of people ended up joining that day. We ended up getting 6.7 thousand subscribers that day. It was the biggest subscriber joining day in channel history ever. So that was a huge day. And welcome to the Lee Spring Army. And thank you so much for the kind words as well. And Matty, did he want us to get a live chat?
He did.
And so with that, let's get it.
And the live chat goes to Charlie, who says, how long do you think it'll be until Tokmak is a done deal?
I would say probably around... Crystal bowling is always tough. I have to put that out. But if I just had to throw out a ballpark month, November would be the month I think Tokmak would actually be a battlefield or would have been taken by that point. So my bets would be on November. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. And thank you so much for sponsoring a live chat and also helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And hopping along to our next live chat, we have a $5 donation from EDD, who says, I want my $2. Why no blimp drone motherships dropping swarms of drones to extend range and batteries? Ernest P. Orwell.
And thank you for the support, Ernest P. Worrell. I'm just kidding. Thank you for the support, EDD. And to answer that question, the reason why we're not probably seeing the blimps like Amazon Prime has to drop off their drones is because that probably would get shot down pretty easily, because, you know, just take a couple of rifle hits, that thing's going to start deflating, and now you got loads of drones that are out of range and will never be able to make it back. So that's probably why we're not seeing the blimps. But that is a pretty cool idea. In a war like Afghanistan, I could see that going all day. I mean, like, that would be a really cool idea for a place like Afghanistan. But in a place like Ukraine and the battles and war that we're seeing, I don't think those little airships would last that long, or blimps would last that long before they ended up being shot down. But with that, I do thank you for a really good question and the support in helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And shout out to William Jones as well as Keymaster, who each put in a $5 donation without a comment. And thank you both very much for that support and to helping keep the channel running as I'm trying to hold back a sneeze. And also, Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank both of y'all for the support while Matthew takes a sneeze break right there, because both of y'all helped this channel to keep on running. And if it wasn't for y'all's support and helping this channel to keep going, we wouldn't be able to make it possible. Y'all help this live stream to stay ad-free, sponsor-free, and every kind of free, so that way we can run this the exact way we want. We don't have to bend our will to YouTube AdSense. We don't have to bend our will to sponsors and what they would want us to say or not to say. Y'all make this entire thing possible, and I gotta thank y'all so much for that, because if it wasn't for y'all's continued support to the stream, it wouldn't be possible for us to run this the way we do. And so with that, thank you to both of y'all once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Sign Fine Bala, who puts in a $5 donation and says, have you heard of Armored Core 6 Fire of Rubicon? It's launching on August 24th, 2023.
That sounds like a video game plug advertisement if I have ever heard one. I've actually not heard about, I think I've heard about that game in passing, but I haven't heard about it in great detail. The games I play are usually milsim games just because I think they're neat, like Hell Let Loose, Squad, a little bit. Let's see, what else? Hell Let Loose, oh, well, I said that already. Gates of Hell is another one that has hell in the name. War Thunder, games like that. I usually don't play anything along those lines, but it does sound pretty neat. But beyond that, I wouldn't know much about it. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat this time from JP on the road. And thank you very much, JP, for that support. He says, I joined the LSA on the Wagner coup episode 2, and you guys were the best live coverage on the web that night. And thank you very much. We have a lot of positive ratings on that one.
And thank you so much for the support, JP on the road. And also cool to hear that so many people are watching tonight that it did end up being here because of the Wagner coup. And I gotta thank you for saying it was the best live coverage on the web. It ended up being the most viewed live stream on the web that day. And funnily enough, I actually took a screenshot of the charts because there's a website out there that compiles the charts of the most viewed live streams daily. That day, we ended up beating, and I'm saying this name not with any context or anything, it's just someone who was on the chart. It turns out that that same day, Elon Musk ran a one-off live stream on YouTube. Our live viewer audience at its peak ended up beating out Elon's by about 800 live viewers that day. So we beat Elon.
Is that Elon Musk or Elon Ma?
That was Elon Musk, like the legit Elon Musk. And then we ended up beating a couple of other people, and I'm just saying their names because I know y'all will know who they are. I'm not saying it with any political context or anything like that, but I'm sure y'all all know who these are. We beat ABC News, we beat Ben Shapiro, we beat the Young Turks, we beat anyone could beat Louder with Crowder anymore. I mean, like, he's dropped off the face of the earth. Who else did we beat?
Quieter with Crowder.
Man, and cussing out your wife with Crowder. But anyways, we beat everybody over that day. Like any political commentator you could think of, whether they were right-leaning or left-leaning, we beat them. We beat Elon. We beat most of the major news companies. I think we actually ended up beating all of them. And we were number 36 or 34 worldwide for the most viewed live stream and live stream audience that day. It was crazy. It was absolutely insane to us and really blew us away that so many people watched it. I gotta thank you so much for enjoying it a great deal and finding it to be a great stream, because I think by the metrics it was the best stream we ever had viewership wise. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the kind words, and thank you for being a part of the Lee Spring Army since then. And of course, long live the LSA, and thank you for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Scott Jensen, who puts in a $10 donation, and thank you very much, Scott, for that support. He says, how many tanks and artillery that can legitimately called operational can Russia possibly have left? Also, I joined the LSA the night of the coup, and Slava Ukraine and Shoigu!
Shoigu! Это было пропастно! And I gotta thank you so much for the support, Scott Jensen. And to answer that question, the Russians have about 1,000 tanks left. We don't know how much artillery they have, because they have a lot of it in storage, and it doesn't take as much to get an artillery piece operational, especially the older ones, as it would a tank. So we don't really have a clear number on that. I would assume maybe 1.4 thousand artillery pieces left across the whole front. That's an assumption, not really based on much of anything. So those would be the two numbers I would have to go with on that. Also, really cool that you also joined the night of the coup. We are having a lot of people coming in, Matthew, tonight, like, I joined on the coup. And that is really cool to hear, because we are always wondering, man, is like our live audience just people who got here at the start of the war, or are there any new people coming in? And it appears tonight...
One man's coup is another man's gain.
Man, one man's coup is another man's boo. I don't even know what that means. I'm just trying to make stuff rhyme.
I don't either.
But anyways, I do thank you for the support, Scott, and helping the channel to keep on rolling. And really cool to hear that you also joined on the coup. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Third Eye War, who puts in a $5 donation. And thank you very much for that support. And sadly, no comment to address, but thanks for helping to keep us running. And we also have a 5 from Jason Carpenter, and he says, Russians lie so much. They believe themselves, and do you think they know that everyone else knows that they are full of crap, and the Russians will never be able to make right all the terrible things they've done to the Ukrainian people throughout history.
I would definitely agree with that last statement. And as far as the Russians knowing that everyone thinks they're full of crap, I don't know, because they seem so confident in their lies, it seems like they actually believe them all the way. So I'm not really sure if they do or don't. I would actually have to say I think they think that everyone thinks they're serious for the most part, considering how they talk. But with that, I thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one is from Inconsistent User Data, who puts in a $5 donation. And thank you very much for that support as well. They said, ring, ring, hello? Want to defect to North Korea? Okay, Van's going to be here at 10. See you later. Man, that might be a documentary. That's not even a joke.
The action music starts playing. We immediately began to race to the border. Our hearts were pumping with the blood of martyrs. But anyways, moving on from that, I gotta thank you so much for the support. And that's exactly how it went. That is a true story. Well, that is based on a true story. But with that, thank you so much once again in helping this channel to keep on running, and also throwing in a real documentary of events. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dean London yet again. And no comment to address, but thank you very much, Dean London, for that support. We also have a 5 from Adam, who says, love from Romania. And by the way, I uploaded a video to Twitter, but don't search for it. Oh my god.
Oh no. Well, I think...
Oh dear.
Oh man. Well, I thank you for the support, and I will not pull it up, because it's the other Romanian video that we have been told about and then had to go and look at, which was very unfortunate for us. I still suffer nightmares from that. I would not want to see it, to be quite honest with you. But still, thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and thank you for sharing that little heads up with us. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to James Dunn, who puts in a 2 and says, armband may have lost yellow from sun bleaching.
And I thank you for the support. Kind of doubting that, because for sun bleaching to happen like that, where it turns yellow to white, you probably had to be out there for years. And I don't think that guy's been out there for years yet, but maybe that's what happened. And so with that, thank you for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to David Moyers, who puts in a 2 and says, what space program? It's Sputnik to Splatnik.
Oh. I see what he did there. I see what he did there. I like it. I respect it. I respect it. And so with that, thank you for the support. And I love the joke. It was a solid one. A very solid one indeed. It was solid, Matthew, wasn't it?
Yes. Put some respect on it.
Man, put some respect on it. But with that, thank you so much once again for support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Burnaby Alex, who puts in a $2 donation and says, today is Taco Tuesday, and I'm just saying.
And hey, I know what you're just saying, but it is Taco Tuesday. You gotta have a taco. You know what I mean? Every week.
And that's only in the military.
Man, only in the military. It's not just in the military. It's out there in the real world. I mean, hell, it's a thing. But what happened? But still, thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that does address that fairly well, because we will be getting tacos next Tuesday. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Neil Visnot, who puts in the 5 and says, I joined the Night of the Rebellion as well, and I think we should get our own name. Maybe I ought to call them the Rebelers.
The Rebels. Where is the Rebel Alliance?
I'm not telling you.
You think you can hide from me?
I don't even know when the hell he said that in the movie, but anyways, thank you so much for the support, Neil Fizzanot. And we've been wondering, where did you come from? And apparently you came from the coup. I guess you could say you're a little coopy. I'm just kidding with you. But anyways, thank you so much for being here with us since the coup and also being a part of the LSA. And I think we will have to work on getting y'all a little special name. And so, with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And I saw Wonder and say, how do you fellas deal with that Alabama heat?
We don't.
It's tough. It's really hot right now, and we got a long walk to the law school from our parking spot, which is a problem. And also, I saw somebody getting scraped off the concrete yesterday by an ambulance for the heat. So it's pretty rough out there.
Really?
Yeah, I saw some ambulance scraping some guy off the pavement. I'm not sure if it was because he fell out from the heat or he just like got faint or something or what, but he was being taken away.
Dang.
I was walking by like, damn, all right.
Hey, you never told me that story. I feel like I missed out. What the hell?
Yeah, he wasn't actually getting scraped off, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, anyways, we're on to the next one.
And the next one, goodness, the next one goes to Bob Anon, who puts in a $15 donation.
Hey!
And thank you very much, Bob, for the support. He says, the way Russia lies to themselves reminds me of the same way some people with certain mental illnesses lie to themselves. I can understand that an individual gets sick like this, but a whole country?
You got a good point, Bob Anon. But countries operate a lot like people. And while a country is filled with usually millions of people, or hundreds of millions of people, they do end up kind of all coming together as a collective and operating as a nation. So they kind of can apply to a whole country in a way. But still, a very good point, and very bizarre to think about the Russians as suffering from a mental illness. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we are now moving on to our live chat question. Then we'll return to that super chat that just came in. Our live chat question is the Morse code decoders of the stream. We have Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, and Paul Schultz. And they said tonight's Morse code cipher is: Ukraine is keeping up the pressure. Russian forces are almost done for, and slow Ukraine.
And that's the sound of money. And y'all just hit that dead on the nail. That is the Morse code message of the night. And I got to congratulate y'all for getting that correct on the 545th day of the war, because y'all been getting that right consistently every single day without fail. And so congratulations once again. And with that, we are on to the 10 Canadian Super Chat from Veronica M, who put in Old Guard, Day 2, still here, LSA forever. And I got to thank you so much. Wait, hang on. Incoming. But anyways, thank you so much.
Oh, damn. Yeah, the nice touch.
Yeah, but thank you so much for the support, Veronica, and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, thank you for being here since day 2. That is a long time, and you certainly are deserving of the Old Guard title. And so with that, thank you so much, Veronica, for the support, and also throwing in how long you've been here. And with that, we are on into the live chats. And also, have to keep this in mind, we are in law school, so we have to get up very early in the morning tomorrow to even get a parking spot. I have to get up at 4. Not 4. I have to get up at 5:45. I don't know why in the world I took the 40 out of that and just turned it to 4, but I have to get up at 5:45 in the morning tomorrow, and it's almost 12 o'clock. And I want to make sure to get a little bit of sleep, so we will be answering only 5 live chats, and then we'll be rounding out tonight's stream. And so with that, we are on to the first one.
This one goes to Haribo, like the gummy bear. They said, do you guys think there is a point at which NATO will jump in, and what do you think that red line will be?
Nuclear, biological, or chemical warfare will be that red line. It's been clearly laid out. Beyond that, it's a kind of a free-for-all. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one is from Plexus Gaming, who says, Enforcer, when do you expect Ukrainian forces to actually get through to Crimean territory?
Most likely in the middle of next year at this going rate, but I could be wrong. They could get there quicker, or it could take longer. But if I had to crystal ball, somewhere around mid-time next year. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Stephen Urkel, who says, is Transnistria a military target for Ukrainians, or is that Moldovan territory?
It is Moldovan territory, technically, so it would be a Moldovan issue and a Moldovan target. If Ukraine was to fire in there, considering that Transnistria isn't actually recognized by Ukraine or any other country, that could technically be considered Ukraine firing on Moldova. So they most likely would not do that. And so hope that does address that fairly well. And I think we're on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Historic Tasmanian, who says, has there been any more attempts on Putin's life?
Probably, but we're not hearing about them much. There's almost always assassination attempts occurring on every leader in the world at all times, but we haven't heard about any recently on Putin. So I would say, from public information, no, but knowing how things work, there's most likely one in the making or one that has happened recently that we didn't hear about. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is 22, who says, what is the current status of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant? I can't find any status.
Right now, the status is stable. The situation that we were hearing about, the power plant, has died down and is no longer a major concern. And so the power plant's operations are running largely nominally or normally. The cooling pond still has enough water to also run the reactors as well, and that has not become a concern as of right now. And so I hope that does address that fairly well, at least based off of the information that we have gotten recently. And with that, it is the end of tonight's stream. I thank every single one of y'all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute honor to run the stream for every single one of y'all tonight, and I hope y'all have enjoyed it incredibly well. If y'all are new to the channel and y'all did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because it allows you to be notified of when we run these streams. And you can always count on us to run these streams 6 days a week, except for Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, covering the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine in video and picture evidence. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching. Good night, good luck, stay safe, take care, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army.
And good night, LSA. Thank you all for another great stream, and thank you as well, Neil. And yes, good night, Slava Ukraine.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.